is 5 o'clock on February 10th. Selectmen's meeting in Lakeville. Is anyone other than LakeCAM recording the meeting? Okay, I don't see anyone. First thing on the agenda is an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 30A21-4 to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security personnel or devices, sting operation, and pursuant to Mass General Law 30A22 to review potential release of executive session minutes from 2016 to 2019, and pursuant to Mass General Law 30A21-7 to comply with the open meeting law, Mass General Law 30A22F, approval of executive session minutes for January 22nd, 2020. If I could have a motion to go into that executive session.
Madam Chair? It's January 27th, 2 sets, and to return to open session.
Okay. January 27th, 2 sets. And to return to open session. I forgot that, sorry.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
LakeCAM, aye.
Baby and I.
Hartley, aye.
And we will be back.
It's kind of weird because I haven't left.
How are you guys?
Party. Party started without us.
Couldn't stay away?
I haven't left and you're coming back.
Couldn't stay away? Huh?
We know all about those. That's Tim, Richard's camera.
I'm just going to do the wave.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, so we are. It is 5:30 and we are resuming our meeting. I apologize. We had to do an executive session, but here we are. Next item on the agenda is a 5:30 meeting with the Freetown Board of Selectmen to discuss the Freetown Lakeville Lake District. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Leah Fabian, the chair. This is John Powderly and Rich LakeCAM. And if you could just introduce yourselves for everyone.
George Grunwald.
Lisa Pacheco. And
Tim McIntosh, I'm not on the board. I'm just with them.
That's okay. So here we are. Let's talk about the Lake District.
so the reason why I wanted us to meet is because we've never met face-to-face to discuss this, and it's something that's going to impact both towns. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity just for us to get a conversation going.
Okay.
And hear what your thoughts are. And both George and I just had a chance to read over, I guess, the 4/25/18 meeting that you had with the lake people.
Okay.
So I have a better understanding of what was said at that meeting.
Okay. So just as a little bit of a summary, I know that Freetown has been presented with the petition, correct?
That's correct.
And you're acting on that petition. You've scheduled a meeting on Saturday?
We have a special town meeting on the 15th at 1 p.m.
Okay. All right. So I do know that I wasn't on the board at the time. I believe John was. But I do know that Mr. Sarsha had come to discuss. I don't know if you have questions, if you are looking for personal opinions. I don't know that we've formulated like a board opinion. We have a whole lot of information that we've all been given to study. So I don't know if anyone wants to start by making a comment.
I have
Sure.
one first comment question.
Sure.
In reading your warrant article, it says to this, I believe this is petition, right? To see if the town will put forth legislation to establish this district. Where's the legislation that's going to be put forward?
We did not.
Right.
As you know, it came
I'm
up.
not picking on Freetown.
Right.
I'm
No,
just-
no, no, I know. You'd have to ask.
So you go into town meeting and you don't even and once again, I'm not criticizing Freetown.
No,
You don't know what the legislation's
Well,
gonna
we
be.
really haven't had any discussion about this at all. We
Okay.
were presented with a petition. We couldn't change the wording around of
Right,
the
I
petition.
understand that, yeah.
So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's where we're at. Go ahead.
I do know that when I went through the minutes from the last time that it was, when it was discussed. And I think some of the thoughts that were brought up by the Lakeville board at the time were very valid. I don't know if John wants to, because he was there.
I'll speak to it when we get there.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm looking for a place to start,
Right.
so I don't know if you guys have a specific question,
I think when I first looked at this, I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions. My biggest concern is this is going to become an inclusive environment, and it'll be between the haves and the have-nots. That's my number one concern. I mean, I commend what the end result of taking care of the weeds and protecting the pond. I commend everybody on that. But I certainly, in my own opinion, feel that this is the wrong road to go down. I think that we do need the state to be involved, and I know that they were at one time and they backed off, and I think that there's been some renewed vigor to go along with that. I also had asked at our last meeting if there was a charter. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a charter or how it's going to be governed or anything like that. And one of my other fears is in here, it said that Mr. Sasha said he had met with them individually and they were in favor. I will be the first one to tell you that I have not met with Mr. Sasha individually. I have not heard from him. I did have a phone call just the other day from one member of this committee asking me what my feelings were, but I have never been in favor of this. I have not, let me just say.
You're taking that from the minutes, our minutes.
Yes.
At the meeting of 4/25/2018.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so I guess because I was at that, certainly it was almost 2 years ago, and I go along with the same story of commending people to want to go forward with that. And certainly, we're dealing with the river invasive plants and have been with the Herring Commission and other commissions. And we had gigantic state meetings. When I say gigantic, they were, what, Tom, 60, 80 people in that room, of which they were all high-powered state workers. But going back, and they hadn't come up with a way to get rid of the invasive plants. I have to say that. There was no agreement. So I says, does that mean we're going to go ahead and do something? No, we're going to continue to study it. This is after a 6-hour meeting, and they've been working on this thing for 20 years. But back to the April meeting, I somewhat call it taxation without representation. I said that I would support it clearly. We seem to have gone from 1,600 properties to 1,200 properties, but having said that, there was a discussion of 1,600 properties, an average of $100, $160,000 a year, which obviously that kind of spooks you. How does it get administered? What are they going to do with the money? And all of that are valid questions. But I had strongly suggested that you do a mailing to the 1,600 people. I can talk to someone and say, do you want to get rid of the invasive weeds? Oh, of course I do. Do you want to pay $160,000 a year to get rid of them? And do you want to pay $243 annually? Hell no. They're not on my side. They're in the Cove on the Freetown side. So there wasn't, whoever was talked to, I said you need to do a mailing with the specifics and say, do you want to pay $85 extra taxes? Do you want to pay $243 extra taxes? And if most people sign up for it, I'd be happy to push that forward. But it just got dropped. So I think if you read our letter of the summary, we addressed as many of those issues as we thought. You need to contact, not you, they need to contact 1,600 people and say, are you people going to, are you willing to donate money? Here's a specific amount that you're going to donate annually. What do you think? You're going to do it? See what the response is. And then I think the next step could be taken as to what is the best way to administer it.
My fear is the people that can't afford it. And then we've talked about tax title, deed restrictions, not being able to use the water, banned, those are all things that have been out there. And that I can't,
That's craziness.
Yeah, I can't.
Right.
In the name of full disclosure, we have not, as of even today, I think, received a petition yet. So this is just a conversation between selectmen.
Exactly.
So you have a petition, we don't. So we're just
Right.
talking here.
Right.
I have some even more specific issues. Again, I'm the world's biggest volunteer. If I feel like something I can contribute somewhere, I'll sign up. That being said, sometimes life changes, you have to change things. One of my concerns is succession planning. So we put this all together, the people approve it, gets approval at the state level. You know, what happens if, you know, there's, people lose interest? So, you know, is there a plan in place actually if that happens? What happens? Some of the other questions that I have are, I believe we checked with our town accountant who said there is a cap to how much we're bound by 2.5% plus new growth, whatever. Isn't that what Todd told us the other day, that he felt as though there is a cap to how much the tax can be increased every year? But that's another question. I mean, I feel like those answers should almost be coming to us. So, you know, what I can honestly say is, I mean, if we happen to get a petition, these are the questions that I'm going to have, you know. And again, I can't tell you how many papers I read, how many letters I read, how many everything, and I kept seeing, you know, oh, we need to do this for the herring, we need to do this for the herring. We all know that we have the herring, and I work with the herring people on our dam committee, on our, you know, APC committee, on everything, and there are some passionate folks, and I called a few of them. None of them have officially been contacted, and on this board, if we're citing one of the reasons why we need this, is there a place for the herring folks to be represented at this board? So right now, I just feel like I have a whole lot more questions. And again, I don't fault anyone for coming forward wanting to do something. I know the people's frustrations with the weeds and everything else, but this is, you know, there's a lot more questions. The more I look into this, the more questions I feel like I have. I've also talked to friends who live in different parts of the state and they belong to these types of associations, and some of them have really great experiences working with them. Some of them don't. I haven't talked to anyone yet who would be in a district that involves 2 towns. So now we have 2 boards of assessors doing the taxation. We have 2, you know, tax collectors collecting the money. We have 2 town accountants trying to make sure that money gets transferred. It's everything times 2. So right. I do feel like there's a lot of work a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
You know, I would think that, you know, one would have to have an information session for the people that are on there, the people that are affected, which is somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600, and I'm not sure what that number is, but an information session so they can be advised as to how to vote for it. Otherwise, the warrant is pretty vague, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. I mean, sure
it was the question certainly of the money, how it gets monitored, who's going to administer it. So we could go right down the line and ask all those questions, which we did. Never. The only next thing that happened is you guys got a lucky draw of a ballot question. And we may very well get that once 100 people in Lakeville. But I'd say we got to do a mailing to those people and have a information session and say, here's the true fact. Here's the numbers that you're going to be charged. Do people know what you're getting into? And then who administers the money? What are they going to do with it? We can't even agree with the state how to get rid of the invasive plants in the rivers. So
Exactly.
that's just part of it. All your questions are very valid. There's no question.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
It's the chair in me, I'm pointing to
The other
you.
thing is that, and I don't know the exact number, and I'm just gonna throw a number out because I'm guessing, that 50% of those homes on Long Pond are summer residents. Maybe more, I don't know. But those people that are gonna be taxed are not gonna be represented in this process because they don't have a vote because they don't live in town. So that's something that, people need to be aware of too, that you're gonna try to put it on these people that don't even have a chance to vote. The other thing is that, since I've been around a long time, that in 1899, I wasn't alive then, that, the agreement for the state came and took, the Assawampset Pond Complex, including Long Pond. And the situation was that it was going to be used for Taunton water and New Bedford water. But little people realized that in that agreement in 1899, if anybody wants to check it, it's also a backup water supply for the town, for the city of Fall River.
Yes, it is.
So, and people still think that Assawampset goes into Long Pond and Long Pond goes into Assawampset, so that's not the case at all. And Tom can bear you out on that. But the problem is that, since these are public water supplies, that it's a completely different situation in dealing with the state, because you're going to have DEP all over you. You're going to have I noticed, I saw a letter in here that Taunton and New Bedford don't support this.
Right.
Okay? So you're going to be messing around with this water supply, and it's not going to be controlled, by the state. And if this group decides that they want to put in some kind of chemical, in the water, the process to do that is huge, to get that thing done with engineering and the costs associated with it. Where if the state does it, you got a whole different situation. So I think it's an extremely complex issue, to try to address. Do I think the state ought to step up and do something? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because I know both boards, have been talking about it for years, and it's really a shame that they haven't. Now, the other conversation having to do with the state boat ramp, as you probably know in Freetown, especially on the Freetown side, that, that boat ramp on weekends is mopped. I mean, the pond is crowded because of all the boats, coming in. Maybe, people ought to start talking about controlling the number of boats that are going into Long Pond, because, and I love fishermen, it's not right, Tom, I like fishermen, right? He's a big fisherman. But, one of the problems is the pond is very shallow, and the boats that are coming in are coming in from other ponds, other lakes, from other parts of the state to fish. And what they're doing is they're tearing up the weeds that are there and distributing more, throughout the pond. So there is actually a number of issues to be addressed. I'm not sure this is the right solution.
Correct.
But that's my opinion.
The hardest thing for me as a selectman is, we're elected by the people to represent the people. If I were to put this on a town, even by petition, I would have to say that what it should include, which it doesn't, is, supposedly there will be a 16% interest on the tax bill if it's not paid. Well, even if it's $85 or $100 a year, today life might be just fine, but, tomorrow mom and dad both lose their job, and, and that becomes a lot of money. I think, again, in the name of full disclosure, I think the warrant leaves out a lot. People should know that if they can't pay this tax, that it doesn't just mean that you lose your rights. It means that there's going to be a lien that you have to deal with. And again, what does that mean? So I don't know if you have specific questions for us. I don't know if you...
We have not had a chance to even sit down and talk about this with you. Again, it's almost like the regional school district, right? I mean, we've had how many conversations about that, and
Right.
I feel like this is another joint venture that this is the first time we're talking
that we're
about.
talking about it. And it's a big deal. And
It
I
is a big
agree
deal.
too. I mean, there is, some good work starting to go on about, the river, the this, the that, but that doesn't necessarily address, what's going on here. And
what does happen if one town votes for it and the other town doesn't? Then where are we?
right, that's
you know?
another, right.
You're gonna fix the whole thing, huh?
I think there's a lot of questions, and I think that, you know, I'd be curious to see what's gonna happen for you guys on Saturday, because I'm not gonna make a public guess at what's gonna happen, but we could be getting the same petition.
Right.
So, right now we don't have it, but I'm happy that we've had this conversation. Because it
Absolutely.
sounds to me like we have a lot of the same concerns, so it sort of validates that neither one of our concerns are, you know, off the wall, so to speak. So,
Right. I think we're both on the same page, or
Yeah.
6 of us are on the
yeah,
same
we're
page.
talking about information, communication.
I mean, my question would be, what are our options? What can we do? I could see a town meeting getting packed by interested people and not attended by the majority of people who don't even know this is happening, which is always a problem.
Right.
Attendance at town meetings has been very poor
Right.
for quite a while.
Yep.
And so is there any action plan that we can put in place to publicize this?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, again, John's
Right.
idea of,
Right.
have people even received,
Right. I mean, we have the same situation. That is, if we have 100 people show up at our town, you have less sometimes. But we have 100 people show up, maybe 8 of them live on the lake. And the 8 that I know that go to the meeting don't support this. So there's another 800 plus that are not represented anywhere. They don't even know that it's going on.
Right.
So I'm gonna have 92 people who say, oh man, increase the taxes to clean up the pond, why not? So it's taxes without representation. In a project that is so complex, it's unbelievable. Whether we talk about chemicals laying down mats, they talk about get the same people that have been in Parkhurst for 10 years. They use chemicals. They're not going to be allowed in the major waterway. We've talked about that with the state before. So.
I know that we did talk about the boat ramp a little bit.
Yeah.
The first time they came in, they said that they wanted to take over the boat ramp. Well, they can't do that. The second time they came in, they said they didn't want to. And then I just read that in here again that they wanted to. So I'm a little confused about that. That's not your problem. We'll figure that out. And then the other thing is that when money starts to come in, then they'll pay us back for whatever the assessor's office is doing or the tax collector's office, and that's not gonna work because our people are overburdened with work already.
right.
So,
Right. For me, honestly, you know, right here, it says, you know, a Lake District's day-to-day operations are carried out by a board of commissioners composed of elected employees, volunteers, and local officials. Local officials are paid by the towns, so, you know, volunteers, you know, is there a vetting process? So again, you know, the financial direction of the district is determined by district residents and property owners at an annual meeting. You know, I just, again, I think there's a lot of questions.
Right.
And more questions than I think we have answers for, so.
all right.
Sounds to me like we're all kind of looking for.
Is this already a ballot question that's on the 15th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
for-
so you can't really speak to it at this point in time. You'd have to call a meeting with the
Right.
800 people in the pond and so on and so forth, so there's no time to do any of that.
Right.
No, it's not a ballot question, it's a town meeting, right?
Yeah, it's town meeting.
Town meeting.
Town meeting.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would love it if we could keep talking about this, though.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. We will be definitely in touch and let you know where we
Yep.
stand and
Yep.
what happens on Saturday,
what
of
happens
course.
on Saturday, and then we'll keep you informed of what we do. But again, I mean, I can't stress, and for anyone who may be watching the meeting or whatever and is in favor of this, I mean, it's not, like I said, I don't fault anyone for trying to help on any problem, especially if they're volunteering their time, but you know, there's a lot of questions. You know, we have people that are responsible for collecting money and, like you mentioned, tax title stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, there's, I don't want to see anyone get into a bind because of this extra. I mean, whatever numbers that we had seen from 2 years ago, it was anything from like $100 a year to almost $200 a year. I mean, $200 a year and an extra tax might make a difference for some folks, you know, so.
Again, and that goes back to my original, it becomes between the haves and the have-nots. And, you know, there's too much divisiveness already that I don't want to make this an inclusive society.
Right. So, I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, you guys reached out. It's definitely opens a dialogue for us, though. So, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Some questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put my glasses on.
Hi, Lynn Morley. I actually live on the pond, okay, and the haves and the have-nots kind of bothers me. But our homes are valued so much higher. If it was on the street, I'm paying a lot more taxes anyway. So trying to keep the pond, because that's what's increasing our value, is, you know, is for the town, for all the taxes for both Freetown and Lakeville. It's not just a negative. So because if there's only weeds there and that's just an abyss of weeds out there, my home's going to drop in value like you can't believe. So we pay more. I've gone to the assessors to ask for an assessment. I don't get it, okay? Because the
An
prices are
abatement.
higher.
An abatement, is that what,
Right,
an
I'm
abatement?
sorry.
Yep, no, that's okay.
Yeah. So
Um,
that, I just want to say that. You
Right.
know,
And I
it
do
helps
know
the
that
town.
at the meeting 2 years ago, I think it was Mr. Partley that mentioned that, you know, at that point, and it wasn't just a Lakeville trend, because I was actually on the Board of Assessors at that time. It wasn't just a trend in Lakeville. It was a statewide trend that a lot of the homes that were on lake properties, the property values increased tremendously. So again, you know, if it's a percentage of that, you're right, it's a percentage, you know, but that's,
To protect that value and the taxes for the town, is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to explain.
right,
Okay.
right.
Right. And the flip side of that is that we're talking about a dam project of possibly taking down the dams. We have to be very careful that it doesn't become like a Lake Sebastian and the other lakes that are in Taunton, that the properties became worthless. There's no more boating, and it becomes just infested with weeds, infested with extra bugs and things like that. So it's very important that one talks about the flow of the river, but it's very important that the height of Long Pond be maintained for recreational boating, or the values just go way down, in addition to the invasive plants. But if that water level drops too low, the property values would drop dramatically. So it's very important that everyone stay on top of that, on those issues. And those are public meetings too.
And I do understand your concern, you know, about the property values declining. But again, I mean, we've all said we wish the state would help step in to help us, you know, solve the problem. But I think where we need to start is with a whole lot more questions getting answered. And again, one of my biggest things, ever since I have been working with the herring folks, I've sort of become a little passionate about it myself. I've heard the herring mentioned so many times, and I have yet, you know, Tom Barron actually is one of the representatives for the herring on a few different committees, and I reached out to him, and I mean, you can tell us yourself, but is there going to be a seat, you know, for them at the table to make sure if that's what we're worried about, you know, so that they can weigh in on what we should and shouldn't be doing. So I really want, who's on the committee? I mean, is it 2/3 of the houses in Lakeville, a third in Freetown? So that's the way the split is. There's two, you know, people representing the residents from Lakeville and only one represent.
I know there's a lot more to be answered, but I'm
Right.
just saying that we pay our taxes and we pay high
Sure.
taxes.
Yep.
like,
Right.
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
So it's not, you know, my house would be not worth anything if it were on the pond, really.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Anyone else have questions for us? I'm sorry, I didn't have my glasses on. Yes, Tom.
I think their association, what they wanted to do going back a couple of years was to try to take over the state boat rent and get the fees from there. And I think as it is right now, doesn't Freetown have somebody up there that collects the fees?
Yes.
From that state boat
Mhm.
bid? Where does that money go, to Freetown?
General fund, yes.
General fund, okay. Well, that was one of their plans, was that their association was gonna take it over. First of all, they can't take over a state boat ramp that was put in with state funds and state money. You know, whether they want to or not, they can't, because it's state property. The other thing, as far as treating the pond with weeds, the state does approve of some chemicals to treat it with. And there's companies out there like Solitude or whatever that has a very good record with working with the state that they could do for that. But again, you have to think of prevention. What they do out west in a lot of lakes down south, they have, at the boat ramp, they have boat cleaning. And so when every single boat comes up there, the boat has to get cleaned. You can charge for that or whatever. But that's how to keep the invasive weeds out, because someone takes their bass boat from one pond, transports it to another, and up north they have zebra mussel, all sorts of invasive. But anyway, that would be the first step of what they should be looking at, is to keep any more weeds out. But they're associated, and again, you have to have a majority of the people, but they can't take over a state boat ramp
Right.
to generate revenue.
Right, and I mean, again, my question, who's gonna police that?
Our police department.
But you don't have somebody there full-time now.
Only during a certain amount of dates, like from,
It's only during when they have bass
Right.
tournaments, so it's the bass fishermen that get penalized, because when everyone comes up with their water skis and the skidoos and everything else on the weekend, they don't get charged. But when there's a bass tournament, there's always somebody there to collect the fee. So it's only a minority of the people that they're targeting right now. But again, if you had somebody there full-time and you ensured all the boats are being cleaned, it would help prevent any more problems from arising.
and see, that's just an easy conversation, correct? Like, we are just having a conversation, and that's not anything that's ever been brought to our attention before, so.
Right, those conversations though were had with, when I say with us, with the state, the people that wanted to attend the meeting. Was that a year ago, Tom? It was a while ago.
It was in 2017.
Yeah, it was,
We held an invasive weed conference.
yeah, it was a while ago. And all that was brought up, I mean, they do it other places too.
The easy thing about treating the weeds as opposed to the river is you have a contained pond. All the stuff, any treatment that they've done on the body of water has always been a pond. Our problem is it's a river. And I'll tell you right now, the other problem you're going to encounter when you go through your permitting is because of the red-bellied cooter turtles. They have a 23-mile radius, I believe it is, from the state, a 50-mile radius from the federal government. And because they were put in Assawamsett Pond, you fall under that. So you're going to have bylaws and all sorts of regulations to go through for the turtles.
Tom has been fighting with them for a couple of years now.
Yes, yeah. But if that's the first thing you do, is just prevent any more weeds from coming in. And set up somebody on the boat ramp, have somebody there not just for bass tournaments, all year round, to ensure that the boats are clean.
In summary, I think we'd all like to see something happen, but it's just a matter of trying to find the right thing,
Right.
you know,
Agree.
but, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have to
All
do a
right.
couple things out there.
Moving
We have a
on.
couple of things to vote on out there.
Going to give everyone a chance to shuffle.
Do we want to see if, maybe we should go through some things we could do next,
Yeah.
and then we can do beta.
Yep.
This is who? How was he? He's just trying to gather information, that's all.
I know according to our agenda, we have the Route 79 discussion to take place at 6 o'clock, but I'd just like to take something out of order just so that we can get our fire chief moving along, because he's already had a long day. So,
I do have some fire footage coming up.
are they,
No, we'll wait.
okay, all right, then we'll wait. You sure?
Yep. no
Okay,
problem.
all right.
Thank you.
So we won't go out of order. Always accommodating.
Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is, we would like to welcome Matthew Shute from Beta to discuss the Route 79 project. Welcome.
Bill McGrath is here too with me.
Bill McGrath, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was the member that brought up the Route 79 project that had failed miserably at the polls. And I expressed my concern that the townspeople were not aware of, I'm sorry, I'll take it back, didn't have enough information as to what they were voting on. And there was no informational meeting that was done prior to the election. The last informational meeting that was done, and Matt can bear me out, was in 2016. Right. So a lot of things, changed, during that time frame. And I just think it's important that we discuss this again to decide whether we want to try to move forward with this project or not. I'm not here to ask you to raise your taxes. I'm here to make sure that everybody understands, what this project is all about. So that's why we invited Beta, who was the engineering that has been on the project. And if we decide to take the next step would be a very detailed information meeting to go over the project with all the residents involved, especially the people on Route 79. So that's what we're going to try to discuss tonight, to decide whether we're going to take it forward again or not, and the reasons why or why not we should take the project forward or not. So a couple of things that, I wanted to put up that first slide there, please. And I know this is tough to look at. The first thing that, I wanted to bring up was that, people, should realize, what's a state road and what is a town road and what's private roads. Because there was a lot of confusion that a lot of people think that Route 79, was a state road because it's a numbered road. And Route 79 is not a state road, it's a town-owned road. Now, if you look at the thing up there, which I know you can hardly see, but the green lines show the state roads, and the state roads are primarily Route 18, which runs from the Middleborough line all the way down to the Freetown line, 105 from the intersection of 105 and 18 up to Middleborough, and the other one, people may not realize this, but County Road, which runs from Berkeley to Freetown as well, which happens to run all the way to New Bedford. So that's a state-owned road, as well. Now, and then 140, of course, the state highway. But what a couple of things I wanted to point out was that, when you look at the intersecting roads like Precinct Street, and you can see that we just did Precinct Street, this year. And the reason why Precinct Street could be done, and I don't want to say done inexpensively, but a lot less expensive, is because the highway superintendent, found a process where you do the overlay, you take it up, and you put it right back in the machine, and you lay it right back down. And that particular road has an excellent base and had excellent drainage. Other ones that, are going to be done, this year is Highland Road, which is a long road that runs, up from Route 18, up to County Road. Freetown Street is another road, and Freetown Street, is going to be done, as well as this year. And then you got Taunton Street, and Taunton Street, I don't know, was paved a number of years ago, but overall, Taunton Street is in a very, very good position. Bridge Street is not in a very good, position. Bridge Street, needs to be done. But my point is that we have Route 79, which is a very heavily traveled road, and is in very poor, most of the road is in very poor condition with no drainage at all, except for one section, of the road. So that's just a high-level overview, so everybody understands that Route 79 is a town-owned road, and we're 100% responsible to do that road. Next time. So the area that we were talking about for Route 79 was from Galphie Road up to Clear Pond Road. And I asked the question too, because some people asked me, how come it wasn't continued from Clam Pond Road down to Main Street? And the reason why is because there was only so much money available from the federal government and the state to do the Route 79 project, and they didn't want to put up any more money to do it from Clear Pond Road down to Main Street. But the good news is that the section of road that was chosen has got a good base, it's got drainage, and the cost to overlay that road, which I think is 1.4 miles, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that area, would only cost $500,000 or $600,000 to do. So something like that is doable. Where you have Route 79, the base is not good, the drainage is non-existent, and as you probably have seen over the years, the highway department has put some overlay in sections and patches it and so forth, but it keeps coming apart. It keeps falling apart, and it's going to continue to do that. So the town can continue to put money that way, and it may last 5 years, it may last 10 years, but not likely, because what's happening with the drainage is the water is all going under the road and breaking it all up. And besides that, as you know, we don't have to tell you that that road is very heavily traveled. There's a lot of traffic on that road. It's a dangerous road, and it needs to be addressed. Next one. So Matt, you're gonna...
Sure. I just wanted to touch on something you just said. That segment from Clear Pond Road to 105, the difference between that and what we're talking about is the town is spending their own construction dollars on that segment, where this segment is all federal highway and state funds. So there's different requirements that have to be met as part of the design.
Right.
So that's a big difference in how this project is approached.
Yeah, if we did from Clear Pond Road down to 105, we don't have to put sidewalks in,
Right.
and we don't have to put bike packs in, because we're paying for it.
Right. So overall, the goals of the project, and this slide was actually presented to the town back in 2016 as part of the public informational meeting, as well as a couple of the follow-on ones you'll see. But we're looking to improve intersection safety, primarily at the Precinct Street, Route 79 intersection, and then the Route 18, Route 79 intersection. At Precinct Street, we're looking to realign that intersection to kind of eliminate some of the extra pavement that's there and reduce the angle of the approaching roadway to improve safety there. At Route 18, Route 79, a new traffic signal will be reconstructed with updated equipment, pedestrian crossing improvements, and some lane widening and so forth to improve the traffic operations there. Bicycle accommodation is part of using federal and state funds. All projects must include bicycle accommodation. So the project proposes to include on-road bicycle lanes along the corridor. That's the bare minimum that MassDOT considers for projects now. They actually prefer to have a shared use path or separated bike lanes where the bike traffic is separated from the traveled way by some physical barrier. But for this project, with the right-of-way we have, the on-road bicycle lanes is what's proposed, and that consists of basically a 5-foot bicycle lane right next to the travel lane in each direction. As far as pedestrian accommodation, the project includes sidewalk along one side of the roadway for its entirety. Again, with the state and federal funding, the preference is to have sidewalk on both sides. We went through an exception process with MassDOT to show that sidewalk on both sides would introduce excessive right-of-way impacts to abutters, and they've accepted that. So we're at a point where the state agrees that sidewalks on one side is acceptable. And you know, we'll have, as I mentioned, at the intersections, we'll have new curb ramps that will improve accessibility for everyone. Horizontal and vertical geometry. Generally, we're following the same alignment of the roadway, but there's a few locations where you know, there's curves in the road that can be improved to improve sight distance to oncoming motorists and obstructions that might be in the roadway. New roadway pavement, we've talked about that. The entire roadway really needs full-depth reconstruction. You know, the section from Gulfray to Precinct may look pretty good today, but the pavement cores that we took as part of our project show that there's really not enough pavement out there to last the 20 to 30 years that you'd like to get. And also with the improvements of sidewalks throughout the project, it requires additional stormwater collection in the roadway. So that section will be trenched enough that it warrants reconstruction of the road. And that's something that MassDOT commented on as part of their review. And we generally agree with that. You can go to the next slide. So this is a cross-sectional view. You know, as if you were on the roadway looking down the corridor. It shows the existing roadway width is dimensioned there, which is about 22 to 24 feet. The final project would include two 11-foot travel lanes for a total of 22 feet, and then on the outside of that we'd have 5-foot shoulders. So a total roadway pavement width of 32 feet. And then outside of that, sidewalk on one side and a berm or curb on the other to keep stormwater on the roadway so that we don't have erosion of the shoulders that you see out there today, water getting under the pavement that Rich mentioned. And I also want to point out on this section that it's hard to see, but generally all these improvements for most of the project are included within the existing town street layout. I know I've seen some of the news reported has said that folks believe that they'll have sidewalk in their front yard, and there will be some perceived impact to people's properties, and that's only a function of abutters not knowing exactly where that roadway layout is, because it may be 5 to 8 feet into their lawn area today. There are a few sections where there'll be some permanent easements taken for roadway widening where the road isn't centered perfectly in the layout today. But I would say 95% of the project, these improvements are constructed within the town layout. Go ahead. Rich, did you want to talk to this? You want me to go over
No,
it?
you can talk to it.
Okay. So our preliminary right-of-way plans that were submitted at the 25% submittal show that about 110 properties in total are affected in one way or another for the project. There's 6 takings, and that would be 6 abutters affected, where we do need to take a strip easement or taking to improve the roadway and or the sidewalk. In most cases, that's a situation where the back of the new sidewalk is encroaching on a strip of the abutter's property. 30 permanent easements. Those permanent easements are, some of those are for drainage improvements where you have a drainage pipe exiting the roadway to an outlet off the roadway, and the town needs an easement to maintain that going forward. Most of those are actually for utility easements where almost all of the utility poles out there today need to be relocated. And generally what MassDOT does now is they take an easement, we take the overhead wire line and we offset it 5 feet either direction. And within that zone, if any part of that encroachment passes over an abutter's property, an easement needs to be taken. And so there may be no physical improvement on the ground to the owner's property, but it's an aerial trespass. And it's reasonable to assume that those types of easements may be valued less than a physical impact to someone's property. So while appraisals haven't been taken yet, and we can't truly value these easements now, that's something that it's reasonable to assume those may be of lower value than something like a sidewalk on someone's property, or if you needed to put a drainage pipe through the property. And then finally we have pretty much almost every abutter would be affected by a temporary easement, which would be needed for the contractor to get on the abutter's property to regrade the front lawn area from the back, where the sidewalk meets the property, or possibly to remove and reset a fence that might be on property for some distance. That's primarily what those easements are for. Okay. These are just some graphics, pretty small, but I think the main intent here is to show that while the areas noted might seem large, it really affects a small amount of a lot of properties. The project's almost 2.5 miles in length. So a lot of the red areas you see, those are those utility easements that I spoke to. And the blue is where we have actually a taking or permanent easement for the roadway itself.
Just so everybody knows that, going back there, Ben, please, that's Galfy Road right there on the top. That's the corner of Precinct Street and 79, going that way. Okay.
Could you go back one slide? So I want to point out and this kind of affects schedule for the project, the Route 18 intersection. Route 18 itself is a state roadway. That part of the project is owned by the state, but really it's confined to Route 18 itself. It really doesn't continue down Route 79 for much at all. So there are a few easements on Route 18 that Mass DOT will be responsible for taking. And generally the state right-of-way process takes longer than what the town needs. Generally the state needs about a year to take any easements. So that's something that factors into the schedule, and I just wanted to point out that small section of the project, which is state right-of-way.
But that doesn't include the 79 section.
It does not.
Right.
But it is part of, it needs to be taken
No, I
before
understand.
this
Just wanna make
project
sure.
can be advertised
Yep,
for
okay.
construction. Yep. Okay. So as far as cost to the town, I know this number has been put out there previously, and the only part of that number we've provided to the town to date is about $600,000 plus or minus, and that number includes the remaining design services, the appraisal fees, surveying fees, the legal fees, temporary and permanent easement costs. Those are somewhat of an unknown right now, and I believe the remaining 1.7 million is just kind of hopefully a worst case scenario of what would be required from the town, but that number really cannot be estimated accurately until an appraiser is hired by the town, which does not happen until the 75% right-of-way plans are approved. And where we are in the project right now, 75% design has not yet begun, and it can't until MassDOT holds a 25% design public hearing, which at this point, the soonest that would happen would be in June of this year, assuming that at the I think it's there's a town meeting in April. Is that correct?
If we decide to put it on, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
If funding was approved for the final design and the right-of-way costs in April, design public hearing could potentially be held in June. That would be the earliest.
Okay. Okay, so what's the cost of the project? We have already spent $325,000 to do the 25% design, so that money has already been paid out. The construction cost, the state and the federal government has allowed up to $10.2 million of that project, okay? 100% of that project is paid by the state. We don't pay a dime for any of that construction at all. So what's our share? As Matt was just explaining, that it's up to $2.3 million is our share of the project. We know at this point we're going to have at least $600,000 costs, plus the cost of the appraisals and so forth, which could be less, but we don't know. It's an estimate, at this point. But I think the key point is that all the construction costs, moving to the telephone poles, all the sidewalks, all the drainage, the whole road is going to be paid 100% by the federal government and the state. Okay, so what's it going to cost you? Now, unfortunately, the Board of Selectmen decided that they had additional road work that they wanted included in the override. So instead of being $2.3 million override, they made it a $4 million override because they wanted other roads done and so forth and so on. I think that this project should have stood on its own, and if they wanted to get an override for the other piece, they could have done that as well. So what we're looking at here is not $4 million. We're looking at $2.3 million. Not a small sum, but it's $2.3 million. So based upon a $2.3 million project, $100,000 of property value would cost them an average of $11.09 a year for 15 years, or $166 over a 15-year period. If you had a $200,000 house, it would be $22.18 per year for 15 years for $332.70, and a $400,000 house would be $44.36 a year for 15 years for a total of $665. Now, okay, but I know your taxes are going up. It is what it is. So, I mean, if that's what we want to do. So we go to the next slide. Why should we do this project? As I said, the federal and highway state are going to pay for 100% of the cost of the project. If we don't do this project, the cost of the project to resurface Route 79 from Galphie up to Clear Pond Road, which would include drainage, no sidewalks, would cost $5 to $6 million. The town would cost $5 to $6 million to do that piece, with no reimbursement from the state or the federal government. So it'll only cost the town $2.3 million to do the whole project, which includes completely redoing the road, the sidewalks, the drainage, bike paths, and so forth. So if we don't do something now, and as Matt has pointed out, if we don't do it by June, we're going to lose the grant money, and somebody else is waiting for it. So that's the thing that we have to decide whether we want to go forward. The other thing is to mention that it was in the Boston Globe on Sunday that the municipal interest rate for projects right now is at a 60-year low, the lowest it has ever been to borrow money for a municipal project. Those are unbelievable interest rates, and you're never going to see that. So I guess this is where we are, and maybe you want to open it up to questions if people have questions.
Yeah, just one quick question on the 2.3 million, the design services. Are you suggesting your share of that is the 600,000
It's in the 600,000 range, yeah, plus.
to complete?
Yeah. Yep.
And you've got half that, 3 and change.
No, the 3 and change was already spent. This is 600,000 additional.
So it'd be back to the $1 million number.
Right.
Course.
So for a $10 million construction project, that number is, it's actually on the low end of what really the industry standard, people think today. It used to be people thought of that fee as 10% of the construction. It's really more closer to 15 to 18 now. So it's in that ballpark.
Certainly that was discussed at one of the District 5 meetings, where if it was a $4 million project, it was a $400,000 fee approximately. Then when it grew to $10 million, it became $1 million potential.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly the difference was adding sidewalks, bike lanes, that type of thing. And I had suggested that you go to an hourly fee, not once again, the 10% of the total, which is back to that same number.
You know, we didn't calculate that based on 10%. We went through an hourly estimate of every single task.
Yeah.
You know, it just happens to
So
be.
the 25%'s the 3 and change, and the full is
That-
another 600.
So that 600,000 is from 75% through the final design submission. And then after that, there would be bid and construction phase services, which we did not estimate yet, because that depends on what the town wants. We haven't had that discussion. Some municipalities want us to have more of a presence on site during construction, even though MassDOT provides its own resident engineer. If we did not do that and we were just reviewing submittals, occasional field meetings, it would probably be a $20,000 to $30,000 fee during construction services.
So did you have an approximate breakout of the 2.3? The first one, design services, 600,000. And then the easements, did you plug in numbers to come to the 2.3?
We don't have any backup for the remainder of that 1.7. I'm not sure where that number came from.
Came from that meeting where they had just recently finished a project of similar distance. It certainly was an expensive town, and we said it was an enormous number that we couldn't wrap our head around, and we certainly look at it and say that the easements that we're talking about, it's really the 8,000 square feet, the land takings, could be more expensive than the other ones. Okay.
Yeah.
You answered my question.
Just one follow-up to that, John.
Yeah.
Is that in the 600,000 is $140,000 of the appraisals, okay?
Right.
We could do the appraisals on our own, you know, if we wanted to, but that's included in their fee.
Well, that's why I asked for the breakout of these numbers.
Okay, I'm just trying to
So,
clarify that.
right. So the breakout of the numbers, you do or you don't have the 2.3. You're saying
The 600,000 is included in the 2.3, John.
no, I know that. But what are you getting for the 600? You're doing the appraisals? We aren't hiring the appraisal, you're doing the appraisals.
The breakdown I had given to the administrator included us hiring the appraiser. But as Rich mentioned, that's something the town could, different towns do it different ways. Some towns contract with the appraiser on their own, and some do it through the consultant. The town would save a little bit of money contracting directly with the appraiser.
Okay.
Yep.
Pardon me?
Rich, do you still have that breakout?
Yeah, I do right here. I
I-
was just pulling it out for John.
I just want to note that appraiser fee is something that I've estimated based on a similar project length. We haven't gone out and got a actual quote from an appraiser yet.
Right. Okay.
Let me give that to John.
Thank you.
I think he has a copy of it.
Do you have that? So,
I think there was a question over there.
there was, do you mind if I mention something? Thank you, Brian. So, going with, we don't know everything, specific costs yet. You're estimating, we're not at whatever percent of the project, whatever. We still put it on, because we knew we needed the money, so we put it on the town warrant last year at the annual town meeting. So at that warrant review, selectmen's meeting, we had plenty of people in the audience questioning the numbers. What we didn't have was a presentation like this to offer them. Now, I don't know how or why. I don't recall voting to put, it was presented as 2 questions at the annual town meeting. The money for the project, the money for other roads. Both of those questions passed at town meeting. However, the ballot question was lumped into one question, which failed. I was on the Board of Selectmen. However it happened, it happened. I don't know necessarily how it happened, but I think we did the people of Lakeville a disservice by not keeping the questions separate, because Someone could have said, I believe in what we're doing on Route 79, but I don't necessarily think I want to vote for extra money. So to everyone out there who's been on Facebook, who's been whatever, I have to address that question that we should have put it on the ballot as two separate questions, because a lot of people are saying, well, it failed. Technically, the question failed, so why are we bringing it up again? Because it wasn't the same question. The question that passed wasn't the same question that was asked at the ballot. So to everyone here and everyone at home, that's one point that I'd like to get across. And again, we didn't have a presentation like this at that time. There may have been presentations before. There certainly wasn't a presentation like this between the time the question passed at town meeting and the time that it went to ballot. So that's all I'm gonna say. Brian.
Hi.
Question.
Brief anything, but first of all, thanks for Dave for coming in. I think so far it's been helpful. Some of these are answered, some are not. Some might be better for this 25% review meeting you discussed. First question is kind of around that. Maybe I misunderstood what you said, but what is the flow? So is it there's the 25% review meeting, then there's a potential payment to get to 75, or does that have to be authorized before we can even have the 25% review meeting?
So we are still under contract to get the town through that 25% design public hearing.
Okay, so that would have to happen without additional funds being approved.
That's right.
That's right. Okay.
Well, it can happen without it. Yeah.
It's not a trigger to make this meeting happen. We can have that meeting before anything else.
Yes.
So like the state or federal, I forget what it said there, has authorized 10.2 million. Construction costs go up every year. I mean, is this a number that the state is going to review yearly and change, or if we go over, is the town on the hook to finish the last quarter mile if the construction costs go up?
No, what it will happen is, yeah, you're right, you know, cost to increase. If the cost increases as we go through final design, MassDOT does review the cost estimate closely with every submission, and there's coordination with the regional planning agencies to, move projects around if necessary and try and secure the additional funding. But MassDOT does not come back to the town and say, hey, this has gone up $1 million, you need to chip in. The only time that happens is if the town wants to add certain items, such as, the easiest one is ornamental lighting. That's the typical improvement that municipalities pay for on their own through an account, and the MassDOT's contractor does the work, but that's not in the scope of this project.
A couple probably easier ones, and exactly where you also take everybody's time. Is there any project nearby that is similar in scale and vision? It sounds like it's 2 bike lanes, 1 sidewalk. Is there anywhere we can go and walk one of these things and feel it? Because there seems to be this fog of people thinking it's going to look like 105, where it's just 80 feet wide. It looks like you've got 32 feet plus a shoulder and a sidewalk, 40-ish feet in width.
32 feet for the roadway itself, and then the 5 to 6 foot sidewalk, that's 38 to the back of the sidewalk, and then you're right, it's a 40-foot improvement, but the road itself is 32.
Some of that's using the existing roadway, like the 5 to 8 feet you said we might not really realize it's there on the abutters' properties.
Right.
Now, does that turn into, when that's all said and done, is there a new 5 to 8 feet?
No. So at the end of the project, basically that back of sidewalk is pretty much right on the town roadway layout or a butter's
The town can't come back in 20 years and say, oh, another 5 to 8 feet we need because design minimums changed.
No, not unless there was another project to, further widen the cross section. I wouldn't imagine that would happen.
I guess the last one here is like, theoretically, say everything went past votes, etc. I mean, when could this break ground? Because what I'm really curious is when do we clear our debt schedule? What fiscal year?
So at this point, right now, the project is technically on fiscal year 2021 in the transportation improvement program, but it's been acknowledged, I think, at past meetings, given the delay in getting the final design going, This is likely going to move to fiscal year 2022, which means I'm probably looking at a spring 23 construction. Do I have that right?
Just examples.
Yes.
Not
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
else.
that's
Spring
probably
23.
pretty close.
And what does that mean for the town? Do we start paying it breaking ground, or?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
answer that question. No, we don't go borrow all the $2.3 million all up front. We do short-term borrowing, like to get the engineering done, to 100%. So probably, in the first year, we may borrow $600,000. And then going down the road, then we'll start, when we get to the point where they're gonna start construction, total construction, then we borrow the full amount.
So we might see those numbers kind of phase in slowly as we borrow
Yes,
a little bit
correct.
more. And we've got some other debt that's coming off the books.
Correct.
So there's going to be some rebalancing. Thank you. Appreciate giving me all that time.
Anyone else have any questions? Yes, if you could just
Hi.
give us your name.
So, Robert Blowers, we've already voted for this at town meeting. We've already had the special election and it got killed
Yep,
dramatically.
yep.
Do we have to bring it back to town meeting again?
Yes.
For another warrant?
Yes.
And then if it passes,
Yes.
then we can go and have another special election?
I can answer that.
Okay,
We bring it to the ballot first, and then we can bring it back to town meeting.
Okay. So we're gonna vote at the ballot first for the override?
Correct, it's
For the
in reverse.
2 point whatever.
Yeah,
right, but the difference is we're not voting on 4 million.
Right, I
We're voting on
understand
the
that. I mean,
2.3.
that was a little confusing at the town meeting when they combined the two. And then it definitely was a little bit confusing in the lead up to the special election, which unfortunately not a lot of people were aware of ahead of time either, whether it's apathy or just not being publicized enough. That's debatable, but hopefully this time around people will pay a little bit more attention.
Madam Chair,
Oh.
could I just ask you to spell your last name, please?
Sure. B-L-O-W-E-R-S.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just clarification, and the reason why we're considering doing it now is because, once again, we gotta have this 25% hearing in June,
Right.
okay?
So
The
I'm not
review.
opposed to doing it again. I'm fully
No,
for the
but
project
so people
again,
understand
so-
why we're doing it this way, because we have an election coming up on April 5th. And if we can get it on that particular election, then we don't have to hold a special election
Right.
after town meeting, which town meeting right now is June 1st is what we're talking about.
And the other question I did have, though, concerned the difference between funding the entire project ourselves, doing the project ourselves, because this was a big question people were asking. Obviously, it's twice the cost, at least, of what we would be paying on an override. Eliminating sidewalk, eliminating bike path. But again, it would be twice the cost for the taxpayer. Is that even feasible to say, well, we don't want to do, well, we don't want to go with the state plan, we don't want to go with the state and federal money, we want to go ahead and do this ourselves and eliminate that part of the project, which did seem to have a bit of opposition to it. I'm not sure whether that was just a lot of miscommunication or people just don't, really don't want a sidewalk for whatever reason they may have. And my question, I guess, is if it fails at the ballot, do we come back and say, okay, let's try to do this on our own and have to pay more money? I think that's something that really.
Yeah, well, and we're certainly not getting the same scope of work.
Right. Because for me, I think my biggest issue with the road has to be done, has to be fixed. The drainage has to be fixed. It's non-existent. I have a drainage easement that comes through my property. I don't know what it does, but it's there. I've got 3 manholes, 2 catch basins at the end of the road that do nothing. So, I mean, that has to be fixed. And, ultimately, how much we pay, I think it's going to be a deciding factor for a lot of people. And, the impact on individual properties is also gonna be something that really needs to be addressed, because that really was not, I know speaking for my wife, she had total misconceptions about what was going on. She,
Right.
you know, she voted against it, I voted for it. You know, I mean, that's,
Yep. And again, I do believe in information. That's why we're going the extra step here. You could hear from us all you want.
yeah.
So we
I mean,
figured.
it'd be great if there was even a rough draft of a plan that could be put in the town hall, you know, that people could actually look at.
We have those now.
Yeah.
There is now?
Yeah.
Okay, because there wasn't before. I know there was talk that there was going to be one before the special election, and it never happened. You know, it would be nice to see the actual impact.
Yep.
And we know there's gonna be disagreements,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so when you get to the 25% review, you know, hopefully maybe some things can be changed.
Right.
At what cost or any cost, I don't know.
Well, I
But
mean,
no
from
promises
my
can
point
be
of view, it
made.
doesn't make sense to spend more money than we have to, but, you know, other people may see it differently, and
I agree.
I'd love to hear their opinions too.
I thought there was one more question right here.
I have a question that probably has a simple answer. Why an override instead of a debt exclusion?
This is a
Buildings
debt
different than
exclusion.
roads?
That's a good question, Marilyn. I should have said this.
Because the
This
senior
only
center
runs-
was a debt exclusion.
This only runs for 15 years. It's not, there's two
Right.
types of overrides. There's a general override, where you pass a general override that stays there forever. This is a debt exclusion. It'll only last for 15 years. Thank you for bringing that up, Marilyn.
So you can't do a debt exclusion.
Oh, yeah, we're doing, this
It
is
is
a
a
debt
debt
exclusion that's being
exclusion.
proposed, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You're
right.
referring to it as override, so.
Right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're both overrides, but one is a
Yeah.
general
But
override,
I know with the
and one is a
senior
debt
center,
exclusion.
when it was paid for,
Right,
the override was gone. The
That's correct.
exclusion was
Yeah.
gone.
like the high school is all paid for now. The middle school is coming up in the next 2 years. The intermediate school will be paid for, you know, in 3 years. The senior center, I think, is 3 years left to be paid on that. The library, I think, is 4 or 5, so, yes,
Going
that's
back
correct.
to also what Brian said, that there's gonna be certain things that will be paid for. Yeah, yes.
Yes, Steve Howe, 3 Myrick Street. Just a clarification on something Brian said. 5 to 8 feet from the edge of the road is what the town currently owns. I know most of us feel that's our lawn because we take care of it, it isn't. But it's 5 to 8 feet the average?
Can you put that screen up, back up, that main screen there with the road layout, so. That one right there.
Oh,
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead, one more.
Yeah, one more. One more.
Cross-section?
That's it.
That,
Yeah.
So, Steve, the way the road is laid out now, and it's, I don't know if you could see it up on the top.
Yeah, I have a copy of that from the last.
The road
meeting.
layout says I think it's
40 feet.
45 feet?
It's 40 to 45, I believe.
40 to 45 feet, so certain sections are wider. But the roadways and the sidewalk and the bike lane are all going to be in the current road layout,
Right.
okay?
I guess the next part of my question was that it looks like all of the land taking is on one side. Now, in front of my house, that road is actually 22 feet wide. I've measured it. If we're going to a roughly 40-foot wide project overall, that's like 18 feet closer to my house. That seems pretty excessive. We're not taking any of the land on the Taunton side of the road at all?
No, we are. There's some strip easements on both sides.
This map that
Next
we were
screen.
provided, that's
Yep.
the same thing as you have up there. It shows it taking, I live on the side of the part of Myrick's that goes down towards Galfrey from Precinct down. And it looks like all the land taking is on the side of my property that is on. And like I said, that road's 22 feet wide now, so I guess I'm looking at about 18 feet. My house is gonna be 18 feet closer to, we'll call it the sidewalk, the bike lane, the roads.
Okay, Steve, is your
Yeah.
property, I think your property is up
It's
there.
that triangular piece. Well,
Right next to the dark red.
no, up above.
higher.
Above here.
No, back. To the right.
Oh, right here.
To the right, keep going.
Doesn't
Keep going.
This
Next one. Right there. And my concern is, my septic is, I don't think my septic's 18 feet from the street. The end of my septic system.
So let me just explain. So that area that we're looking at, that red strip,
Yes.
that area is generally for, yes, the roadway will be widened on both sides there.
So
that
on
red,
the Taunton side as well then?
yeah.
Okay.
But that red strip you see there, that's for the permanent utility easement. So that's the taking there is generally going to be only for because the overhead wire may not be over your property, but it's within 5 feet of it.
The poles are on the other side. They're on the Taunton side of the road.
Yeah, they are moving to different sides as a result of the project. Really? Yes. It's complicated to get into, but in some cases they can't stay where they are because they need to be guided properly and with the widening.
Like I said, my concern was that I'm moving, my house is going to be 18 feet closer to the project, but if you're saying part of that 18 feet is going to be split between the Taunton side and my side.
I think the closest, so there's generally only, with a 40-foot right-of-way, there's only, I think back to your original question, there's generally 8 feet, you're right, there's about 8 feet between the existing edge of roadway and most of the property lines.
That's what I had thought.
But most of that area will be improved with road and or sidewalk.
But there's 10 additional feet above that 8 feet that's needed.
Right, which would go on the other side. Generally, we're trying to keep the new center of roadway at the existing because it would drive the construction costs up even higher and design cost if we try and shift the roadway within that layout. So whatever side of the roadway the sidewalk is on, there is more widening needed on that side.
That's our side.
But it's still within what the town owns. So yes, the paved area of road and or sidewalk would be getting, about 8 foot closer to your property than it is today.
So if we're going down the center of the road, there's 11 feet for the road, 5 feet for the bike path, 6 feet for the sidewalk.
Right.
Do they need 2 bike paths?
It's not a bike path, it's a on-road bike lane. So you have one direction on each side. It's a 5-foot bike lane. Yep.
Okay. Anyone else?
So Steve, why don't, I'll get in touch with you and we can actually review exactly that information, what it's going to mean to your property if you want.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian?
I was just going to follow on what Steve asked. Do you know what side the sidewalk's on yet? Or is it another, it could move back and forth depending on sight lines and trees that's been taken down? Or?
It does shift. It does shift at...
Has it changed since the 2016?
No. Nope. I believe it shifts at Water Street
It was on the other side.
to the west side of the roadway, or the north side of the roadway.
But it's the same as what was presented.
Yes, it's the same as what was presented at the 2016.
So on the Galfie side, it's on the opposite side of his property.
No, on the Galfie side, it's on my side, according
So
to the original.
where does it switch on
2016.
Water Street, where, to go where?
To the north side of the roadway.
Not all the way up though.
Yes.
So why are all the telephone poles have to be moved?
The poles, getting into where the poles need to go, it's not as simple as where the sidewalk is or opposite. It's based on, today they switch from one side to the other, and when we start moving them, they want to try and get them in the same alignment. So I could provide some more backup on that, but we walked the whole project with MassDOT's utility section, and they look at each and every pole, how the service lines connect to abutting properties, and they largely drive where those poles need to go, along with Middleborough Gas and Electric.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other new questions? Okay. Maureen, all set? John, all set? Rich?
Yeah, I guess what the board needs to decide, and they don't need to decide it tonight,
Yeah.
but we need to, if we're going to consider,
Right.
moving this forward, we need to put it on the next agenda and have the ballot question available, because if we're going to do it, we need to get it to the town
Yep.
clerk.
And I'd like folks to know.
Do you want to have a meeting, whether it be at the library, whether it be at the high school, where it's publicized in the paper, the public meeting? There's people that watch the meeting, and there's only a half a dozen people here out of the thousands of voters in the town once again.
We had tried to
Right.
get that,
So even though you're trying to do it as of June, that public forum, if they choose to go, it could be as good a meeting as this.
Right.
But they're all invited, and they can ask their questions then if they so choose to.
Madam Chair, that's something we had discussed about having a large format meeting
Right.
and having people attend and having LakeCAM cover it for the people at home. And that's something we'd probably want to find your schedule and do something within
Yeah, we're
the
still at the
next-
beginning of February. I think if we aimed for March. Would that maybe?
You have availability, Matt, or is this
availability?
still up in the air? or-
Yeah, we can do that in March.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want to call and we'll coordinate that and see what venues we can get on the dates
And
that
then
you
we
want.
can announce it at the next meeting in 2 weeks. That gives people at least 2-3 weeks before they have to be there to plan for it. So, okay. Yes, sir?
I just have a quick question. Seeing we're taking theoretically land away, is it a cost factor to prevent us from moving the electricity from above ground to underground? Why it's not done that way?
Cost prohibitive, Gary.
Pardon?
Cost prohibitive.
Well, that's the question, though.
A lot expensive to tear
When we
those
did
down
the
and put them
walk,
underground.
we were talking about maybe 110 poles. I mean, it was a gigantic undertaking. And I said, why not just bury it? Because there's some very straight sections, particularly in front of the golf course, and they had claimed it was a magnitude of greater than twice. So
The amount.
that Middleborough Gas and Electric had no desire to do it. Question was asked, was it an easy answer, or is it a factual answer I can't sit here and say? That was asked. They said it would be cost prohibitive, and I don't think that they came up with a cost per pole, which was much less than I think the state was thinking it was going to be, Middleborough Gas and Electric. But it's a massive, I think over 100 telephone poles move. It's in that range. It's unbelievable that they have to switch and move.
Also, generally, if utilities are moved underground, it's generally considered a betterment, and where the town would have to pay the difference in cost from moving overhead to underground, so.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. That was certainly asked as we did the walk, like, why not just put this underground?
The walk where we had 2 police details, and they each almost got hit once with lights on and everything, so.
People fly down there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. The office will be in contact with you so we can get a date, so we can do a presentation for hopefully lots of people that want to come.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Gee.
The entire fire
That's
department.
why we wanted to do it earlier.
I wish they were here. Sorry.
We would have done it at 6:15.
We tried.
Is there a preference on microphone?
There's no preference.
This place has never seen more traffic.
Wow, it's nice. I like it. So I'd like to welcome the deputy and the fire chief to do some appointments, and all our wonderful people. Take it away.
First of all, thank you guys for all showing up and showing some support. I'm here tonight to request your consideration for 3 appointments, 2 full-time permanent appointments, probationary status, and then a full-time temp appointment. As the fire chief coming in, there were certain things that I noticed about the department, and when I came in, I knew about the history of our call firefighters, and one of my goals was to build up the call to fire department because they represent such a value to the taxpayers. They give it their time, they come out during holidays, middle of the night, and they're the guys that show up that have the full-time people's backs, and they take over when the full-timers are exhausted. Incredibly important people. So when I make hiring decisions, there's a strategy at play there. There's a plan at play, and how I hire people is part of that big plan. And so it's with great pride that I'm able to put forward 2 people from my call department and 1 person from temporary status. So unless you have any questions, can I present the names?
Sure.
My first appointment would be firefighter Dan Blizzard. He's been a firefighter, a temporary full-time firefighter since October 1st of this year. He's also a part-time police officer from Falmouth. He also has 4 years of experience on Marion Fire Department as a firefighter EMT. He's been a standout employee for us. I expect that he's going to be an officer someday. He's shown leadership and character behind his position. He's currently a paramedic student. He's certified firefighter 1 and 2. So if I appoint him tonight, he can ride on the ambulances and jump on the fire trucks and go to car accidents and carry hose into a fire. There's no deficit with his appointment. Okay. My second appointment is firefighter Brian Perkins, who's a longtime Lakeville resident. He's actually at medic school tonight, so he couldn't make it. I told him that was definitely a priority. He started off as a 16-year-old in the junior program. I have some juniors here tonight. I'm happy to see you. He's a consistent top responder, shows up all times of the night and all kinds of weather. He's probably one of my most dependable call firefighters. He has multiple certifications, and he's also certified firefighter 1 and 2. He's another guy that if I put him on tomorrow, he hits the ground running. There's no deficit. He can work by himself. He can work in concert with another medic. So as I stated, he's also a medic school student, and I'm very happy to appoint him. My next full-time temp appointment is Gordon Crawford. Gordon Crawford has just finished his classroom time of his paramedic program, and he is now doing his ride time with the City of New Bedford and also Lakeville Fire Department. What ambulance service do you work for?
East Care.
East Care. He's been with East Care for 9 years, working as an EMT basic, and he's been paired with paramedics that time. So these are the 3 names I put before you.
Does anyone want to make this motion?
Actually,
Yes.
Chair, I just have a question, Chief. Are the appointments going to be just firefighter, or are they going to be firefighter / EMT?
Firefighter / EMT. Traditionally, there's a 1-year probationary period, but the probationary period is also tied into their medic certifications, meaning that they can't move past their probationary status until they complete their medic.
So just plain firefighter then? 'Cause
Firefighter
that's how
EMT.
I did the forms.
They're all EMTs.
Oh, I only did firefighter because that's all the letter said.
Okay, I mean it's
I'll
it's the
just
same. It's
We'll
the
just fix the form.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
so I
the
have to
same.
do the forms again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So,
I'll make a motion that we appoint, per the chief's recommendation, Danielle Blizzard, Brian Perkins, and Gordon Crawford. I'll do just the first 2 first because Danielle Blizzard and Brian Perkins as full-time firefighters and full-time EMTs, basically.
do we have to specify the subject to? Probationary period shall be a minimum 1 year?
Yep, minimum 1 year may be extended until such time. Danielle Blizzard holds a mandatory firefighter 1 and 2 certification from an accredited training program and the required license as an EMT paramedic. Extension of the probation period shall be at the chief's discretion and may be revoked at any time. And similarly, on Brian Perkins, minimum 1 year probation may be extended. That type of thing, and extensions on the probation period shall be at the chief's discretion and may be revoked at any time.
Okay.
So that's
Second.
my motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
then make a motion to appoint Gordon Crawford as a at-will employee and shall remain employee for a period determined by the fire chief. Full-time temporary firefighter to the Lakeville Fire Department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are good.
Congratulations. Congratulations, now you officially work. Congratulations.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you.
All these guys. Thanks for all your support, everyone. It's nice to see you guys. Okay. Keep going with the announcements.
If you want to, unless you want to wait for him.
Taking a break.
You know, one of these people, there's no sense for them having to wait all this time. This is going to take an hour. There's one bike person group here, which is...
Which one is that?
Item number... Item number 24. Okay. Item number 24. Because otherwise they're going to be waiting over an hour.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take an agenda item out of order. Agenda item 24, request from On Your Left Racing to hold the Sunken Island Triathlon on July 25th, 2020. You guys wanna come forward? Figure we'll not keep you waiting all night. Thank you. You're welcome. So the board has received a request from On Your Left Racing to hold the Sunken Island Triathlon on July 25th, 2020. The race will be originating at Camp Cathedral in Freetown, with the bike portion of the race passing through Lakeville. On Your Left is a for-profit organization, however, will donate a portion of race proceeds to a town charity. Both our police chief and fire chief have approved the race. Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good. What do you got?
We have the second annual Sunken Island Triathlon this year. We held it last year as our first event in town. And we modified the route in which the bike course travels through Lakeville.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I should have asked you.
J. DeLeon.
How do you spell that?
DELEON.
EON?
Yep.
Thank you.
So we'll really only be traveling through Lakeville for a very small portion of the race, off the main roads in the central artery of town, which is where we traveled through last year. So taking a left out of the camp, we're left on Middleborough Road, past the boat ramp, all the way down to 18.
Yep.
We'll take a right, left on Long Point Road, and then out to towards Middleborough. So and there'll be 2 loops of that course.
Okay, and you guys did this last year, correct?
We did.
Okay.
Yes. Last year, though, we had upwards of 15 police details throughout the whole event. This year, we'll only need about 7. 2, I believe, from Lakeville now.
Okay, because of the way you changed the...
Correct.
Okay. Questions? Questions? Okay. I don't have any questions either. So does someone...
I make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Discussion, was it
Yep,
Was
just,
it your letter that said you want to make a donation to charity?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
We like to ask the local towns which charity they, if they can recommend, or if they have one that's pertinent at the time in which we hold the race.
Okay, I don't think we've thought about that yet.
yeah, I don't,
How much of a donation are you talking about?
Well, it depends on entries. You know, it's our second year. Last year was about 100 people that raced,
Yeah.
which is completely different than the other race that's in town here. You know, we're just
Yeah.
trying to grow it. So it just depends on entries. You know, we want to give back to the
do you
community.
have
That's part of what
something
we
you're
do.
passionate about?
Anything to do with children, you know, schools maybe, or, you know, we looked into the Freetown Lakeville, the water district, that the small group that's looking to rectify the milfoil issue in Long Pond.
Yeah, they won't even be
Yeah.
really set up.
That
I
wasn't
think.
something that was responded well to. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe, like I said,
Which
we wanted
could
to-
be a future if it does get
Right,
voted in,
right.
but I see a time issue.
Yep,
you know.
yep.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if we can work with them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Give them
That'd
a
be great.
list so they can pick from.
That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All set?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to run through the announcements pretty quickly. Agenda item number 5, Senior Center announcements. The Selectmen will hold office hours at the Senior Center on February 14th from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I believe John Parley is going to be there this week. The library on February 23rd from 12 to 4 p.m. Join the Friends of the Library for mini golf inside the library. Sounds very interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
I bet it is. Because is that vacation week? Or was that after? I think
No,
that's
it's
after.
that following weekend
Okay.
after vacation. Yeah.
The Lakeville Historical Commission is putting on an exhibit of Afghans and rocking chairs at the library. This exhibit will showcase knitted and crocheted Afghans and rocking chairs and offer a historical view of these traditional winter comfort items. They had an opening reception on the 8th, so I actually love the stuff that they do there. But anyway, so it's already open for anyone who wants to go visit. Other items, the last day to obtain papers at the town clerk's office to run for position in the annual town election is February 13th, 2020. The deadline to return those papers is February 18th. There is a list of positions available on the town's website. Motor vehicle excise tax bills, if you didn't notice, were mailed and are due March 5th, 2020. A reminder to residents, if you would like to be kept informed of the construction regarding South Coast Rail, you can sign up at on the MassDOT website. Visit the Town of Lakeville Facebook page or the town's website on the home page under News to get the link to set up. A reminder, this is an important reminder to residents that the state's hands-free driving law goes into effect on February 23rd. So as of the 23rd, it's hands-free, which means you can't be doing this in your car anymore. Visit the town's website at lakevillema.org and the police department webpage under news and announcements for more information. Early voting for the March 3rd presidential primary will take place at the police station community room, which is right here, beginning on February 24th and ending at noontime on February 28th. 4 times, please visit the town's website. Anyone else to add anything? John, any announcements? Rich, any announcements? Okay, we're gonna go right to Maureen Candido, our town administrator. Oh, I skipped one, sorry. Public input session. Does anyone have anything from the public? All right. Okay, skip that one. Now we're going on to the town administrator's report. Maureen Candido.
All right, so all budgets will be submitted today to the Board of Selectmen for the town administrator's budgets. It's a maintenance budget this year as we're in a contract contract year. And it's a season. Too much sports. And that includes the capital plans that are all complete and ready to begin the capital expenditures committee meetings. And outside of that, the voice over IP project is completed in the police station, And now we are ready to go forward and move the project so the town can have phones from, the last 20 or 30 years. Yeah, so it'd be nice to have voicemail and a much easier way for people to get in contact with the people at town hall and be able to have that going forward. So those are the things that are going on this week.
Okay. Next on the agenda, number 8, discuss the Serpent Statement of Work for the Americans with Disability Act, self-evaluation, transition plan, and vote to have that signed, whatever. Maureen, do you want to speak to this? Maureen?
Sure. A few months ago, we made some changes on what we were doing, and we started the process to go through the ADA grants. We wrote a grant, and we were approved for $35,000 for someone to do an evaluation and a transition plan for the whole town to make sure that we are more ADA compliant. Around 11% of the residents of the town of Lakeville identify as having some type of accessibility issue. Right now we have some older buildings in town that don't meet those needs. If you've ever been up Town Hall steps, you know what I'm talking about. They're not user friendly. We want to make sure that people are able to feel safe and come in Town Hall and be able to use any of the buildings in the town. So what this does, this $35,000 that we've got to do the self-evaluation, the transition plan, if we have SERPID, which is one of our partners, to work on it, that opens up the ability for us to go for a $250,000 grant for each project. So that could technically be $250,000 to go for the town hall, and then maybe to Assawampset School, and maybe to the historic library. Projects like that. There's no limit really on what projects you can come up with. It just depends on your grant writing prowess and your willingness to keep on taking a bite at the apple. So that's what this would be doing. This would be approving the $35,000 self-evaluation and transition plan for the town-owned buildings in Lakeville to go forward so we can be more compliant and serve the needs of the people in town.
Okay. Nate, do you have anything to offer on this?
Not too much, other than Rita and I actually were working on this a number of years ago, and there was this idea of bringing to light things in town that needed to be fixed and whether or not the funding source was going to be available. I think the time is now, and we owe it to the residents to move forward with this initiative and go ahead and identify some of the accessibility issues and go ahead and try to correct them.
Okay, but this $35,000 is just for
the evaluation and the planning. So they come up with this large booklet basically, and they show pictures and drawings of what issues are issues and how they're going to resolve them, and possibly a price to resolve them. So it comes up with an action plan and how we want to proceed forward. That would come back to the board, and then we'd see what we want to write the specific grants to address the deficiencies.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion on this?
I have a question. Well, you can make the
Okay.
motion if somebody wants to make the motion first. I think we should hold off on this. We just got this information,
Yeah, I actually
Sunday,
thought,
quite frankly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things to discuss in here, and I'm not sure the timing is good, and I'll tell you the reason why, is that we know who Serped's going to be driving crazy, and that's Nate Darling. And Nate Darling has got tons of work to do right now, from the codification of the zoning bylaws to the, what's that software? Viewpoint software that's got to be implemented townwide and is not 100% done. And the dates on this talk about February 1st, which is already gone by, to between now and June 30th. I physically don't see how this is going to be done in that period of time. So I have a problem with the time frame right now. And so I'd like to review this and to see what the options are. because you know what's gonna happen is that if it has to do with buildings and so forth, they're gonna have to go to the zoning enforcement officer and the building inspector,
Right.
which is Nate Dowling. And I don't think we should put any more work on him right now.
I have to be honest and say, I actually thought the $35,000 was to do a thing, to actually like make a change, do construction, do something. So clearly, I need more study on this myself. So John, I honestly didn't realize it was to do a whole evaluation. So John, I don't know how you feel.
Well, I don't know, Serpent does a pretty good job on their own. I mean, they're very professional people. I hope that Nate's gonna point him in the direction of the buildings, but Teddy De La Rocco can, or someone in his department can take him around. So, I don't know, you may have that conversation with Serpent and say, how much does the building facility manager have to be involved, but they're a pretty capable group, and they're self-motivated and know a lot about this. So I hope that they don't bother the hell out of Nate Dowling.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I did address this at the beginning when I spoke to Serpent about having this grant, and their interaction would be minimal. They would be presenting stuff to Nate as opposed to creating work for Nate. And this is something that would be taking this issue in and of itself off Nate's plate. These are issues that are going to need to be addressed in one way or another, and this actually frees up Nate, in my opinion. I don't know if he shares the same opinion. This frees up Nate to not have to do these type of things. And it is a compressed time frame. The state only allows us to June 30th to complete this. So if we hold this off, we miss out on our opportunity, and there's no saying that we would have this grant waiting for us at another time. This is a grant that had to be written and approved out of a sea of other grants. So turning this down at this juncture over something that might not be an issue at all is probably not in the best interest of moving forward with compliance.
I mean, we're talking about drone programs, interior photography, mapping tools, all that kind of stuff. I just have to be honest, and I, too, only sort of received a lot of the supporting information just the other day. So I'd like to table it for 2 weeks. I don't want to derail the whole thing, but that's how I feel. I feel like I don't really... I thought this was completely something different. Maybe it's my fault, maybe it's not. I don't know, but including, you know, I know we can authorize the town administrator sign on our behalf. I don't know why this automatically went to having that kind of a vote, so I'm not real sure, you know, about a couple of things on here. So if I have it my way, I would make a motion to table it. But guys, it's up to you what you want to do.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of tabling?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion,
please.
okay.
I'd like to know what's involved in applying for the grant and what the qualifications are and the requirement for the grant are as well.
Okay.
Which grant? Applying for this grant or for the secondary grant?
The secondary grant, the funding grant.
The qualifications for that are getting this completed.
Who?
Are the first step in the qualifications for going for the next grant are getting this completed. We
No,
can't
but
go
there
for the
must
next
be
round.
standard forms and stuff and requirements when you apply. Those grants are available now?
Like the $250,000 grants, after these studies are completed, they are available.
No. I'm just talking about what is the grant requirements even before you did this study, so you understand what needs to be the requirements are for the grant.
If we're voting to table, I think these are questions that we can probably answer.
Okay.
Do you want to have Serpent in to explain their role? I mean, they would
I would be able
certainly
to have Grant King come in
understand
if
that,
you'd
have them
like.
in the next selectmen's meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to table. I can work with Maureen on the agenda portion of this, if that means bringing Serpent in. So all those in favor of a tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
All those against? John?
Me,
John is against.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9, review the initial boundary valuation for U.S. Census and vote to sign the certification form. This is my first one of these. Anyone that's ever done one before wants to offer any information?
Make a motion the Lakeville boundaries as presented in the 2019 governmental unit reference map are correct, and to authorize the chairman to sign this certification page. That's my motion.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This next item on the agenda is item 10. It's the earth removal regulations. I would like to table this for a future meeting. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye. There's a couple of things, Maureen, that I don't understand, so before I even... all right, item number 11, discuss the karate studio license agreement for Ted Williams Camp. The Lakeville Martial Arts Club expires on, the lease agreement for the Lakeville Martial Arts Club expires on February 29th. Does anyone want to offer anything, make a motion to extend, talk about this? Maureen, do you want to offer anything for us?
No, I spoke with the Scott from the parks briefly. He would describe the karate studio as a model tenant, and they're very happy to have them in the park.
Okay. Is there a...
John is here.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw you, John. Is there a schedule by which we increase rent, not increase rent, do anything?
It's a license agreement, so you can choose.
Okay. I know we require certain insurances. Correct? Are all those, do we have copies of all that? I'm not seeing the proof of insurance.
I believe Scott said he submitted that. Scott said it's all up to date.
Number 17.
Studio holds insurance. Okay, but we don't have a copy of it here, right?
Not on hand, no.
Okay. I just a little stressed because, you know, some of the stuff we don't necessarily we don't know that it's coming up. I mean, for this lease to be expiring February 29th and for us to like really not even be given time to, you know, go over it, I think we need to do a little bit more planning ahead.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I did send it out about a month and a half ago. I'm sorry if I didn't alert. But
yeah,
I sent it out to the board about a month and a half ago. Tracy keeps a good record of what's coming due, and we went out, but we can do a better job at making sure you know everything that's on it.
Yeah, especially, you know, I think this was a suggestion of yours to go on the agenda. I know we work on the agenda together, but it kind of, and you were busy, we had to post. So there was definitely some issues with a couple of things that got the agenda, so.
And the date for expiration was the February 29th, which is the driver of putting it on the agenda.
Yep, okay. So, but there is no increase, there's no schedule of an increase or anything like that, correct?
No, the license was for 2 years at this time.
Yep.
You can do the license for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, however you would like to do it.
Anyone at the board want to make a motion to?
Why don't we invite the lessee up here to the table?
Let's invite John up here.
John Miranda.
Yeah. The licensee also maintains the outdoor restrooms. Are you the keeper of the keys for that?
Yeah, I try to do whatever I could over there as far as whatever they need a hand with.
So is that the one, John, on the side of the building?
Correct, right on the left side of the
Okay,
garage.
so it's really not outdoors, it's the door's going in there, right?
No, it's, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But you can access them from the outside.
From the outside, yeah.
Okay.
I take care of those in the summer, and if there's a problem with them
baseball
during,
season, all that stuff.
I lock up at night and clean them and all that good stuff.
Okay. So what is, we have hours of operation in here. I just, I don't know.
There's one question, and I'm guessing you don't, John. But it says a licensee shall be subject to all mortgages, deeds, or trust or instruments in the nature of mortgage now at any time and hereafter. There's no mortgage on the property at all.
No, it's just a 2-year. So this is my 20th. This is my 10th. So this is my 20th year. So I've done 10 2-year leases so far, but there's no mortgage or anything off it. It's just a
okay.
kind
So
of like a tenant.
what this is basically saying is that if you do have a mortgage, we want to make sure that wherever you get the mortgage, whether it's for equipment or whatever, that we don't allow you to don't allow the bank or whoever the borrowing the firm is to put a lien on our property.
We're understood, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just so
nope,
you know,
understood.
So you know what that is.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a note here on page 1 up in the upper right-hand corner. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Monthly breakdown?
Yeah. Is this a suggestion? Is this a?
It was something you and I had actually talked about. And that was just the note.
Okay. I didn't think we came to a, okay. Well, if anyone wants to make a motion to do something here, they can.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Jen. So, John, you asking for another 2-year or 1 year or?
I'd like 2 years. I mean, I'd like to be there as long as I can. Like I said, it's my 20th year there, so I'd like to be there as long as, I mean, you guys have been great, the town's been great, so I'm fine if you guys wanted to increase whatever or give me more stuff to do. I'm okay with that.
I'm just used to seeing, when it comes to leases, just, a whole packet of.
Yeah.
Like including, a couple years back, whatever, and I just.
So you don't have any objection then to a small increase, John?
No, it's fine.
Okay. I guess one of the proposals here is to increase it either to $475 or $525.
Correct.
475 is the current.
Current.
Suggestion is to go to 525. Do you have a problem with that, John?
No, sir.
I make a motion that we do a 2-year lease agreement. My motion is to make a 2-year lease agreement ending February 29th or 28th, 2022 at a rate of $525.
Yep, it's fair. Thank you.
That's my motion.
So that would be from John, just correct? That would be February 22nd. Where are we?
Today?
Today.
Today we're at the
February
10th.
21st, 2020. Where?
Well, this ends the 29th,
No, this one expires the
2020.
29th of 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you can make it,
I'm looking at when he signed it.
yeah, you can
Oh,
make
okay.
it March 1st or whatever date
Yeah,
you
so you
pick.
can make it March 1st.
Motion, make it
21.
March 1st, 2020 for a 2-year period.
Okay.
For a 2-year
So
period.
moved.
All those in favor?
I'm second John's motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
All set.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Do I need to sign anything, or?
No, we'll
We
send
don't
you
have-
updates.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care of it.
All right, thanks.
All right, number 12. We have here before us some more redesigning of the Selectmen's office. So I do know that when people ask to speak to me, I usually meet them at Dunkin' Donuts because there really isn't much of a conference room. So I'd really like to see a conference room take place somewhere, occur, be created at Town Hall somewhere. So maybe Nate, you could join us for this conversation. Do you have any recommendations where we could put a conference room in the here and now without a major overhaul renovation of the entire place?
So, at least it's my opinion that we probably could create a small meeting area or a conference room for the Board of Selectmen in the upstairs, the old tax collector's part. Currently, there's about 500 square feet up there, split into two separate areas. I think that we can easily create one of those spaces with two workstations, the other space with one workstation in a selectman's area. So I think it can be done.
My recommendation is that I feel that we need, I just can't believe that a town hall does not have a conference room. And that, you know, we used to have a conference room and a meeting room in the building. And now that it's being reconfigured, we don't have a conference room at all. And I think that it's very difficult to go to have a private conversation with anybody, whether it's an employee or somebody coming in for the town, the state, or whatever, not to have an area of a conference room. And I know that if you look at the configuration of the town hall right now, you got the building department that has two people in there, and I know that Nate actually leaves the office and goes to his truck so he can make a call and have a private conversation. And I know where he goes to have his calls.
It's one of three spots.
Or I want to try to talk to an employee, and I'm standing out in the hallway, you know, talking to the employee because there's no place to go. So we have two people in the building office, the building department office. We have three people in the treasurer tax collector office. We have two people in the town clerk's office. We have three people in the assessor's office, and we have 3 or 4 at least in the Board of Health office. And in the selectman's office, the town administrator has an office, understandably so, but then there's 2 offices there. One is held by the town coordinator, and it's a very large office. That person is not a department head and doesn't need an office of that size. And to the right of that is the administrative assistant. And so my recommendation is to move the administrative assistant in with the town coordinator and make the administrative assistant's office a conference room. There's more than enough room in the town coordinator. It's a huge office, huge office. It's bigger than Nate's office with 2 people.
I mean, how many square feet is it? That whole area is what the tax collector's office used to be. That's how big? 500?
It's about 500 square feet, about 245 or 250 square feet on each side, yeah.
On each side?
On each side, yeah.
Does that wall come down in the middle? Or is that a...
No, we can't.
That's a carry wall?
Yeah.
And there's very little cost to the town. It's already under renovation as we speak. You know, the ceiling's been torn down, the lights have been torn down. They're going to be putting in new tiles, you know, on the floors. And I just think it's better utilization of the space. And not only utilization of the space, but actually people can go and sit down and meet, you know, in that space, where now they can't go anywhere. So if a developer comes and meets with Nate and he wants to have a private conversation, he can't do it in his office because his office is always busy all the time. People coming in and out of there, you know, whether it's the treasurer, you know, meeting with the banks or whatever, and whether it's the auditors, myself, or any members of the board.
Right.
And I just can't believe, and there can be other small meetings, you know, going on there as well with other committees, because we have a problem where we don't have enough meeting space, and right now the meetings are all over the place, you know, and they're just not consistent. So that's my opinion.
I would just like, instead of taking a vote or whatever, I would just like to say, can you find a room for a conference room somewhere?
It's got to be on that floor. It can't be on the second floor.
So
the steps are
not
just
the
as bad on the
upstairs,
second.
because the upstairs, the upstairs
It's
is just
unreasonable
yeah.
on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
And to speak to that just briefly, is the process in which we're going to continue that renovation
really the decision doesn't need to be made here. Both of those spaces, the ceilings are out. I mean, this is a bigger picture that we were dealing with air quality and trying to improve air quality, take some of those stagnated areas that were between drop ceilings and plastered ceilings. So those were getting reconfigured anyway. The carpet's coming out, tiles getting done, and then you're going to have 2 blank pallets. What you choose to do with them as far as functionality of the departments, I think you have time to make that decision. I'm confident that you can fit 2 workstations in one of those areas. I know that we do have a clerk that works out of one of those spots, and maybe there's a way to do 2 workstations in one area and 1 workstation in the other. Who sits where, that's for somebody else to decide. But I'm confident that we can make that work up there and create meeting space, for the, types of meetings that Rich describes. And he's absolutely right. But if we kind of wind the clock back, we were faced with window replacement and roof replacement at the old assessors, and we started getting numbers together, and we did see that conference area and said, look, maybe, it was a lot to maintain that other building.
Right.
So that's why the decision was made to, eat up that.
Back.
Exactly.
Right.
And then from there, we looked at some of the other spaces. We were dealing with accessibility issues. I think we've been very successful in getting all of the real high traffic offices down on the first floor. I hear from residents every day that they like the fact that it's all in one area. We have handicap parking, accessibility, but we don't have a meeting space. And Rich is right. I gotta drive up to the Tamarack restaurant, or the old Tamarack, and I can laugh about
honestly, I've met people.
You still will.
Yeah,
I've
met
just
people
a nice
at
view.
I've met people at the library in those small rooms, because they don't want to talk. They want private. So it would be nice to have a place. I can't begin to tell you about, the work you've done with the air quality and whatever. That's up to you. I just would love if you could come back to us and say, I found a spot to put a conference room.
I think it's probably that area.
Well, yeah.
I think that's the only reasonable area to have a space for the Board of Selectmen. And I see John, head up the stairs every day, and I saw Rich in the office today with an armload of paperwork, and he sat at my desk for a little while when I wasn't there. And the Board of Selectmen shouldn't be working under those situations. Of course, if we had one workstation there, with a computer and access to the various drives that are available, through the town, I think you guys would have a good usable space and have access to all of the records like you should.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
If I could interject?
Yep.
We would also have to have separate climate control to block those off to make it an actual private room, because they do share climate.
That one big unit there.
One unit currently.
So if you were, and Maureen's absolutely right, if you were looking for confidential meeting space, then we would have to close off that window. If the window were allowed to, the window between the 2 offices, if that was allowed to stay open, we wouldn't have to deal with any of the climate issues. If it were to be blocked off, you're probably talking about another $6,000 and getting a mini split system similar to the town administrator.
Sliding window there, right?
You could put a sliding glass window in there and close it, and probably alleviate some of the noise back and forth.
Or we also could do something with that front office in that area that's not where that front window that you look in.
Yep.
The next area, that area could be partitioned off.
What front area?
The front office, when you go in, there's the part with the half door, the service window, and then there's another part that's just been opened up because we removed the safes.
Yeah.
That could possibly be its own area. Maybe if we had something like that COA partition door. Are you familiar with the partition door in the COA? So it's a wall that rolls out and it has a door in it, and then when the office is in use, it could be partitioned. I'm just trying to think of usability and space.
I guess I don't want to be an architect here. I guess, maybe you could work on that. I know you have enough to do.
Weren't they in the same office before?
Who's they?
The town coordinator and the administrative assistant?
Sure, and we also have another person, a clerk in there
Well, that clerk works very, very little down in the town hall, right?
Well, she's there 3 days a week.
Okay, so it's very simple. Excuse me, can you move back up a second?
I'm sorry.
Take the conference room and put a small desk in the back of the conference room, and that person can sit there when they come in. That's all.
So just a shared conference room and a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
A
was.
small desk, not one of these gigantic desks.
I don't think that's too much of an issue. But I think it would.
We have to do this. I mean, I'm telling you, I go nuts going into the
But
town
I was just
hall.
worried about the privacy issue because you had said that you wanted some type of privacy, and that's why I was thinking about
Okay, so you
bifold.
get the glass door, you know, the glass, you just close it when it's in use, and you open it when you're done. That's all.
Is that a feasible idea?
Yeah, that's actually the direction in which we were heading, minus the glass panel, but yeah, would obviously offer some privacy.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
So we wouldn't have air conditioning or heat in the front when that's being used?
You would.
Yeah, it would be a rarity that you were ever holding a meeting in there that you had to close that. I think that would be, most of the time that sliding window would be open, right?
Correct.
So it would be a non-issue. And if it ever became an issue, we'd just put another mini split in that area.
Or you could reverse it. You could put town coordinator
front room.
in the back room where the air conditioner is, and then make the front room the conference room.
Either way, we can work something out to be something that you're
I
looking
mean,
for.
It's just frustrating. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tracy, but you know, there's a lot of other people that should have private offices and don't. And you know, a lot of department heads don't have private offices. They share them with other employees, and I just go there and I'm frustrated because I got nowhere to go. Like, I came in Nate's office this morning. John was in Maureen's office, and so I went down to Nate's office, and there I am sitting in front of his desk with all my papers all spread out while he's working. That's not good. That's not the right thing to do.
I agree. And the process moving forward is going to be about the same for me. I mean, we had planned on ripping all the carpets out, VCT, the ceilings, patching holes, upgrading electrical system. So we're going to have those two spaces, and it sounds like we're all on the same page with where we're going with it. 2 workstations in either the front or the back, and 1 workstation in the other area with a meeting area.
And we already have the
We already
conference.
kind of have it set up.
We already have a conference table that wasn't in use upstairs to
I mean,
fill
even
in.
if you look at the other part of the building department with the Board of Health, it seems like there's a lot of files and everything there, but there is a table there, but still, I can't, with everything that's in there doesn't seem to me like there's any free space.
There really isn't any free space in there. We did look at that to see if we could carve out a small piece, and, you know, we really haven't finished up the reconfiguration downstairs, because the ultimate goal was to get Conservation Commission on the first floor as well, because currently they're on the second floor, or third floor, really. So they're not accessible, and you gotta go through the kitchen to get up there. So it's not the way we want to serve the public, you know, land use and inspectional services. I think I have no problem putting conservation within the current Board of Health, and unfortunately, the Board of Health eventually won't be able to meet in there. They'll have to, I mean, then we're gonna be back in the meeting space thing, but we're gonna serve the public first, and, you know, how we do that is creating accessible space, and then we gotta get this meeting thing squared away.
Okay. All right. So you're good?
I think so.
Okay, I'm good.
So is that what we're gonna do?
Yes.
Yep.
Is that what we're gonna do?
We'll get it done, and we'll bring it before the board if you want again, but we understand what you're looking for, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Number 13, discuss posting Board of Selectmen agenda packets on the town website. So, I'm not quite sure where we start with this one.
This is something Tracy had brought, and I know she had discussed with you. People are looking to see other things on the agenda, if we discussed anything. Tracy, do you want to fill in?
There are some towns that do post their entire selectmen packets. It's just another step for transparency so that residents can see what you're looking at. The slideshow doesn't have everything, and of course, if you're not here, you don't see it. So some people do look at them and go, hey, I want to talk about that, and I'd like to go down. It's just another level of transparency that other communities are doing, and I didn't know if you wanted to consider it or not. I am scanning the agenda packets now instead of keeping paper copies. I'm scanning them electronically, so it's not extra work because I'm already doing it. It's just putting it on there, just like a set of minutes.
And my concern on that was just making sure that we're not overusing the website and losing space and overloading, and Tracy said she was looking into that
for the amount
of space that these files would take up.
The other concern that I have is that the public would see the package before I do, you know, and that, you know, I don't think because we wait till the last minute, rightly so, to try to get everything on the agenda, that, you know, like I said, I pick mine up on Sunday morning, and so I don't think we should be putting it out there before the selectmen have a chance to look at the agenda and the packets associated with it. So if a person has a question about the agenda, then they can call and ask, you know, about the agenda. What is that on the agenda for? So I really don't think this is necessary right now.
John, do you have an opinion?
I wouldn't do it for that same reason.
Because some of the stuff is executive session stuff, whatever. I mean, I don't have a problem posting. I don't know.
That's fine if it's just a suggestion.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it as a point of information that other towns are starting to, but, you know, honestly, this was like, you know, just one. Yes?
Continue.
No, go ahead.
I, for one, would love to see it back. I don't know, I think I'm being told to mosey onto the microphone.
That was subtle.
I mean, in all honesty, this is like agenda item number 12. This is what it says, so, you know. You know, so not every page is, that's why I'm just kind of concerned with the amount of stuff that, you know, is going to be on there, but.
I mean, I would, as a citizen, love to see that information. It seems like you guys get it at the last possible minute, which I kind of understand if you're trying to set an agenda. But then there's many times where we sit here and a lot of folks have said, well, I just got it, I haven't had a chance to even read it through, so let's table this. Like, yeah, it seems like you're getting it awfully late in the game where you don't even have an opportunity to look at it. I'd like to sit here and, you know, I brought my tablet. I'd like to flip through stuff and see the presentations. We had beta here, but none of the PDFs, you know, that we've been, you know, you spent Sunday with your personal time posting information for us to try to digest it. Where if it was part of a routine process where it gets up there and then maybe is also included as part of the minutes, because sometimes you read the minutes and you're like, all right, reference this letter.
Yeah. The only other issue that I have sometimes too is that, you know, on some of these pages, they're actually thoughts. They're not necessarily, you know, and sometimes it says, well, you know, these are the options, or that's why I'm kind of, you know, it's almost like we put our thoughts down too, so
Understandable.
Someone may read my thoughts and think
they'll interpret it wrong.
Right, so that's the only,
Facebook.
Yeah, so I mean, I certainly am not opposed to information. We know that. I've said that a million times, but I may like to.
Maybe Monday meetings are tough if you're getting all this stuff last minute on a Sunday.
You know what it is? It's tough to amend.
No place to be.
Yeah, it's tough to amend an agenda too.
If we had a conference room.
Yeah.
We laugh.
We put everything out there, but. It's like I don't necessarily want to post the meeting with a, you know, the way the law was changed, the agenda is supposed to represent the meeting. So it's like, if we only go in and put bullet items in, let's say, then we have to, you know, and that's more work for everyone in the office.
Because sometimes it's tough to look at an agenda and decide, do I want to take the whole free time I have to come to if I don't attend the meeting,
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get the full picture of what was going on.
Right.
And I might not, please take no offense to what I'm about to say, I might not even get the minutes for months later.
Yeah.
Where are all the executive session minutes from the last few years? Right? Good luck to us. We might not get the information.
Yeah.
And that might just be because I forget to go back and look for it. Not necessarily that it's not there.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Maybe the solution is we post all the attachments and everything in the meeting minutes as opposed to doing it in the agenda. And we make sure that everything that was part of the packet, because I know some of the letters that we get and something that doesn't always make it in.
Yep.
But maybe that's the part that we can help give people a little bit more information. But I know it is difficult to, set an agenda on Thursday, get your packet on a Friday, and then be ready for action on Monday.
Right.
Certainly we can have some packets, full packets right here.
Sure.
But as far as, and we did for the newspaper and some other people, so they can be there, so they can be, those that are interested can thumb through it if they want while they're here.
Something, or pass it on a thumb
Yeah.
drive or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, afterwards, great.
We can have a few copies at the meeting if
Yeah,
we
I mean,
want, but-
I just, my only thing is like, this is almost like, the office staff saying, okay, this might happen, that might happen, just in case we don't necessarily, it's like our cheat sheet almost.
Sure.
I have no problems with the other stuff, the letters that people submit for this, that, the other thing, because that is all public record. But to me, this is almost like a cheat sheet that, is.
Well, maybe it's a middle ground. It's not the whole thing, and,
Right,
thoughts
something.
and such, but it's like things that we consider part of record to help
Yeah.
us decide. Like, you see a bullet, discuss that. Maybe that's important. Oh, there's this other documentation that's going to be spoken with it. All right, that's worth attending.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe not.
Okay.
Anyways.
Madam Chair, we just could remove the cheat sheets
Yeah.
from the packet that's posted and just post the actual documents that we receive.
Because, I mean,
You can
technically,
poll the
this
people
isn't.
in the audience.
Yeah. I mean, this
I got enough
isn't.
fingers to count all of them.
I bet you do.
All right, how about we,
Thank you.
yes, how about we had a good conversation and we table this and not let it go, but let's do some more work on that. How's that? Everyone okay with that? Anyone want to make a formal vote to table this? Okay, I'm gonna table it. We talked about it. Okay, so agenda item number 14. We have a letter received from Ellen McCaffrey, who represents the estate of Rose Nasuti, offering a piece of land for donation. Dear Ms. Candido, please advise the town of Lakeville. Please advise if the town of Lakeville is interested in accepting a donation of the above referenced property from the estate of Rose Nasuti, who passed away on November 28, 2018. The property is a vacant lot of approximately 3,418 square feet located on Evergreen Road. Thank you. So,
Are there any taxes due on this property?
No. They're current on their taxes as of 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago.
I think it's almost like a little corner. It's just a small 0.1 acres or something.
It's a tiny parcel. It's something she would like to donate to the town, and she'd like to do it sooner rather than later, as she's clearing up the estate, and that needs to be done rather quickly.
Okay.
And I would recommend. I don't think we've always taken these lots. John can speak to that.
I think we used to in the past.
We used to in the past, and we
Right.
haven't always. However, these
Right.
lots are great for
Yeah.
doing things like
Sure.
land banking and, open space and
space,
drainage, and making sure we don't have, overdeveloped lot coverage, especially in a tightly packed area like that.
I'm for taking any donation.
It also advises us that the assessors have the property classified as residential acreage land and it's
Well,
undevelopable, so.
I don't know all that.
Yeah.
It may be developable, but I'm still for taking donations. I'm not getting a legal opinion
All right,
of
so
anything.
would you like
I'm
to
happy
make that motion
Make a motion
to-
that we take the suggested donation from the estate of Rose Masudi.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes? Rita Garbutt,
Yeah, I think we have to go to town meeting.
to accept
Okay.
it?
Okay.
Okay.
We have to. Sure.
We will check that.
If it
and-
costs more than, if it costs $1, we have to go to town meeting. But if it costs nothing, and they're not in arrears in tax, we can accept it at
can
Board of
accept it.
Selectmen.
Okay, we can follow up just to be sure.
We'll take it any way we can.
Yep.
Grants are using it, so if you've already checked it, Maureen.
Yep, that's okay. I'll double check.
Yep.
And I'll
Just
make
double
sure
check
that they
and make
actually
sure.
have it, but.
Because we have one of those coming up. We could put it on there if we have to.
We do have that.
All right, agenda item number 15. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You did not vote on the motion.
Oh, we didn't? I thought we did.
Really?
All those in favor? We had
Aye.
a first and,
Aye.
okay. Aye. All right, thank you. Agenda item number 15, we took a vote on January 27th as part of, I don't know if we posted that we were going to be voting or not, but we changed the name on the license for the manager of the Back Nine Club. So we just need to ratify that vote today, so.
So moved. Go. I second it. Go ahead.
All those in favor
Aye.
of ratifying that vote? Aye. Aye, we got rid of that. Okay, item number 16. So the Finance Committee has received another resignation from Cassandra Hudson, and I regret to inform you that I am hereby resigning from my position as a member of the Lakeville Finance Committee. I have family and work commitments that interfere with the timing of meetings and cannot meet anymore. And it is so signed by her. Well, I don't
Make a
think-
motion to accept her resignation.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So we accept her resignation. Now, you don't really have time to get it on the position, correct?
No, it's unfortunately, it'll have to stay the way it is until after the election, and then,
Yep.
I don't know how long her term is.
Yep, so we will have to.
Tracy, do you have
too
that?
bad.
She has one more year, correct, after this year?
I don't believe it was up.
Yeah,
In
she's not
20.
up. I
Yeah.
believe it's just one
Yes.
more
So
year.
I'm sure the clerk, town clerk will be aware of
So
whatever,
after the election, we
Yep.
can
and she can.
meet with the Finance Committee.
So, agenda item number 17.
And the reason why you have to do it that way, John, is because if you vote somebody on now, then.
Oh, it ends. It ends, right? No, I know.
anyways, you
No,
know.
I'm not, right, I'm not
Yeah.
interested.
So, request from the Zoning Board of Appeals to review the petition for 4446 Rhode Island Road. Do either of my fellow selectmen have any comments? Because this is just asking for a review, correct?
The only comment that I would have, and I am pretty sure they don't do this, but just to make a comment on it, is that we're not gonna waive the permitting fees, for the affordable units. I don't know if that's been the way that in the past, but that's what this one
We
says.
don't waive,
Yeah.
we don't waive any fees that I know of. Unless it's for the town itself.
Yeah. Is
So
this
that would-
something that?
That would be
he's-
my only comment.
It's standard that we don't waive fees. It
Do
would be,
not.
That's what I
it would
thought.
be
We don't
out of
waive-
the ordinary that we did
We don't waive
them.
fees except for our own.
Okay, so you don't even have to vote not to
No.
waive the fee?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I don't have any comments or anything on that either. Agenda item number 18, request from the planning board to review the site plan at 310 Kenneth Welch Drive. So this says, and send the planning board any comments that we may have. Does anyone have any comments on 310 Kenneth Welch Drive?
I do not.
I do not
I do
either.
not.
Okay, so we have no comments to send. Agenda item number 19. So, there's been talk, there's been suggestions, there's been all kinds of stuff about initiating a fee for bicycle road races using town roads. I don't want to spend a ton of time tonight on this. I just would like to get people's thought. If everyone's an absolute no, then I guess we don't really need to spend much time here at all. But does anyone have, I know we've been given some information here that, you know, some other towns do support a fee, some towns support a fee for for-profit races and don't charge non-profit races. I've said in the past that even just going to Franklin Moniz, who's our superintendent of streets, at a minimum, he sends out a street sweeper anytime we have, you know,
trash pickup to make sure that
trash pickup. After that, I know Tracy suggested that some towns take a deposit, and if everything is left in good condition, the race people get their deposit back. There's all kinds of options out there. At a minimum, we know we have staff working inside, you know, getting stuff ready for meetings. We have people at the highway department, you know, doing their thing. We have people at the police station reviewing things. All that's on town time.
Yep.
So again, if anyone is interested in putting this as a long-term agenda item to come up with a fee for races, I'll entertain it. If everyone's okay with not charging, I frankly would like to see some kind of a fee. I do know that it costs money, fuel and everything to send out the street sweeper. I mean, Franklin has to coordinate his time. I think Lakeville's a great place to have a race, and some of these races that are for profit, you know, and this is some, not necessarily something I want to start right away, but I definitely would like to see some work done. But if I'm the only one, I will just keep on going here.
No, I think we ought to look at it, but I do think we need to distinguish between for-profit and non-profit, you know, races. And, you know, organizations in town, non-profit, probably shouldn't be charged a fee, but the ones for-profit, these people getting in my way.
I'm sorry.
But non-profit,
Yep,
you know.
and we can come up with some fee structures. It's not something a lot of, you couldn't get the information on websites. Tracy had to reach directly out to some of the her admin group to talk to it. But I do think at a minimum, we should be able to pay for the street sweeping and you know, anything that the DPW or the highway is really doing to prepare.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, a lot of these companies, profit, not profit, whatever, are paying details, and, you know, that means our police officers are making, you know, their detail money, which is definite part of their income and everything, but we still pay for someone who's sitting at the police station coordinating all these efforts, you know.
Agreed.
And sometimes it's a lot of work for them. If we need more people than we have, they have to reach out, you know, whatever. So I would definitely like to see, you know, I'd like to see a distinction between profit and non-profit companies.
We can make up some choices for you.
But
and
if,
bring that
yeah,
back
we
to
can put this on sort of a long-term, you know, when it's not slamming budget season, maybe we can take a look at this. Okay, next. Agenda item number 20, here they come. We have a request from South Shore Race Management to hold Mullen Hill Christian Academy 5K on May 9th, 2020. So we are requesting the use of public roads to hold the Mullen Hill Christian Academy 5K road race at 9 a.m. on Saturday, May 9th as a fundraising event for the school. The race will begin and end at the school located on Staple Shore Road. We would like to place mile markers and directional arrows along the course, temporary signs set up at 7 and removed as soon as the race finishes. Attached, please find a course of the map with route directions, as well as Mass DOT event notification form. Sounds like it's pretty complete to me. There's a map here.
I make a motion we approve the Mullen Hill Christian Academy 5K race on May 9th.
I'll second that. Can we do them all? 20, 21, 22, 23, do them all together?
I thought you were going to say, can we do all four that are in the packet right now? Okay.
I'm making a motion that we approve 20 through 24.
Yeah. So we do have, I'll list them off then. We have the race on November 7th. Yep.
That's really gonna be tough on the minutes.
Oh.
Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Because if I can say, on the Tour de Creme, the selectmen require them to send postcards.
Okay.
Out along their route,
Okay. So, and just to make things complete, the police and fire chiefs have approved the routes.
All of them.
Okay, on all of these. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the May 9th? Aye. Same everything. Police and fire chiefs have approved. They have all their paperwork here. They have their DOT event number. Same company, Mullen Hill, for November 7th. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All
You
those
can
in
do that.
favor?
So moved and second.
Aye, okay. All right. So item number 22, request from Mattapoisett Land Trust and Friends of the Mattapoisett Bike Path to hold the 5th Tour de Creme on May 17th, 2020. Yes?
Now, on this one, previous boards have requested that they notify the people on Long Point Road, but none of the other people are having to notify. And this
Anyone.
isn't a race, it's a bike ride.
It's a ride.
So I don't know if you want to make them continue notifying, but
Okay.
you didn't require it from the other ones.
Dear Ms. Candido, I am writing on behalf of Mattapoisett Land Trust and Friends of the Mattapoisett Bike Path to request permission to hold a charity bike event, the 5th annual Tour de Creme. Starting in Mattapoisett, the event consists of 4 bike rides through Fairhaven, Acushnet, Freetown, Lakeville, Middleborough, and Rochester, with rest stops at the area's creameries. Bike ride and ice cream. Doesn't get any better than that. The 50-mile ride passes through Lakeville as shown on the enclosed route map. The route is the same as last year. After riding west to east through the Quiticus Water Treatment Plant, cyclists will ride north on 105, turn right onto Long Point Road. We expect up to 110 riders to be in Lakeville from approximately 11:10 a.m. to 1:10 p.m. And then they go on to say they'll require helmets and everything else. Anyone want to make a motion to approve this?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item number 23. Request from Spark Bike Run Sports to hold the Mixed Tap Cycling event on April 5th, 2020. Spark Bike Run Sports is
So
a,
moved.
okay.
Second.
April 5th. All those in favor?
Hold on, I think there's something.
Okay, the
About
fire
this
chiefs
one.
and police chiefs have approved. And Ted Williams Camp is being approved by Mass. The event has already
Yep,
been
no,
approved by
it's
Loon
not this
Lodge,
one.
New Bedford Water Department, DCR, and Ted Williams Camp. Okay.
No, it's not that one.
All those in favor? Aye. Agenda item number 25. All right, discuss rescheduling. We had meetings planned on March 23rd and April 7th, selectmen meetings. So a couple of folks are gonna be away the week of March 23rd. I don't have a calendar.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I had suggested the 16th, because Mike Rodricks can make that date to speak to the Board of Selectmen per Selectman LaCamera's request. He can make that date.
Okay, so our next meeting is technically the 24th, correct?
Correct.
February. 2/24, so then.
March 6th was already scheduled.
3/6.
Would you check that day? What day is March 6th on, Tracy?
Friday.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
So it would be 3/9.
Yep, 3/9.
Okay. So 3/9. So instead of the 23rd, we would say the 16th, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, that's when Senator Rodricks can make it.
Okay, so we would like that.
Yes.
And then we are looking at 2 weeks after that, which is the 30th. And then we have April 8th, which is a Wednesday, and we switch to Wednesday because that would be the first meeting day after the election, and there will be a reorganization of the board. And you may not have to listen to me be the chair anymore. So, do those dates work for everybody? February 24th, March 6th, March 16th, March 30th, and April 8th. So we're only voting on the new ones of March 16th, March 30th, and April 8th, correct? Do we vote on those, or do we just suggest? Okay. I'll make a motion that we schedule our upcoming meetings for March 16th, March 30th, and April 8th, in addition to the ones we already have planned for February 24th and March 6th.
So moved.
March 9th, sorry. That was the 9th. The 9th, March 9th. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
We were scheduling some dates for budget reviews.
Yep.
Has that been finalized yet?
No, she's still reaching out and waiting for responses from the finance committee, I believe.
Okay.
Lorraine, you can speak to that?
No, I'm still waiting. I've heard back from a couple of folks on the finance committee about their availability, and I'm still waiting to hear back from the Board of Selectmen.
What were the dates again, Lorraine?
The Board of Selectmen?
Mm-hmm.
For, well, there would only be like one extra meeting, right?
The joint budget meeting?
So what were those dates, Elaine, please? I can write them down.
I believe it was March 2nd.
Wasn't it the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th?
It's the 2nd, 4th, and 5th.
Yep.
2nd, 4th, and 5th?
Right, because
Yeah,
there was
Monday,
an
Wednesday, and a
election.
Thursday.
Yeah.
6:30.
Yep.
Very sophisticated, I gotta read that.
Okay.
And what time?
6:30. And those are just strictly budget meetings unless
Just budget
we have
meetings.
something else that has to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come, they come.
And
then
They have a
we-
bad attendance
All right.
record,
Yeah, so
so
we
let's not
will-
hold our breath.
Yeah, we're gonna schedule those meetings as budget meetings to meet with department heads and everything else, and we're gonna hope the finance committee is represented.
Can you make sure you copy Todd in on those
Absolutely.
meetings? He would like to attend also.
All right, so we did that. Now we have review and vote to approve Board of Selectmen meeting minutes, March 8th, 2019, October 23rd, 2019, and January 27th, 2020. John, you were the only one that can represent March 8th.
Here we go, make a motion to accept. I'm
The
the only
board
one
will
there?
have to
So
vote
good.
to use the rule of necessity.
Oh, let's rule in necessity.
Let's be
Let's accept
it's
this
necessary.
meeting, March 8th, very important.
Okay, so through the rule of necessity, we are approving the minutes of March 8th. Is this kind of, I think this should be it, right, for the outstanding?
No,
No?
I found about 4 more sets. I did the year-end review, and I found about 4 more sets that have to be done.
And you know, I know, whatever, we're trying to get up to date, but I think, you know, this time of year, we probably have like 20 meetings in like less than 3 months, so. All right, October 23rd, I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of October 23rd.
Madam Chair, we didn't have a second on the first motion, and you didn't vote on it.
Right.
So somebody has to second it. Using the rule of necessity means
Okay.
that you are able to
vote on it?
this. Correct.
All right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Second by Rich LaCamera, and all those in favor? Aye. Okay. So, I make a motion to accept the minutes from October 23rd. John, you were with me?
Yeah,
Okay, so
second that.
second that. All those in favor?
Aye. Oops, I have to abstain.
Anyone abstain?
I abstain.
Okay. January 27th, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes. I make a motion to accept the minutes from January 27th.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
John seconded. All right. Any new business? Tracy? Lorraine?
I'm good.
Maureen?
Nobody talks.
What time is it? It's past my bedtime.
Nobody talks.
Okay.
No. I'll get a wheelbarrow for you for the end of the meeting.
All right, number 28, old business. Discuss the FY21 budget. We just mentioned budget meeting things, right?
Yep.
So we have we're setting those up.
Yeah, and I will be able to submit all that budget, the preliminary budget tonight. We have one change that came late today.
Okay.
And so Todd's spreadsheet, we're doing one spreadsheet because we want it all lined up.
Yep.
So Todd wasn't here, so we couldn't line it up, but I brought it to clip on and pass out to the board for them to
We got the first cut at the school budget. I was somewhat surprised. There's 53 fewer students
Really?
in the school system. So I was somewhat surprised at that.
Do we know why that is? I'm just curious. Is it school
Oh,
choice, they're going somewhere else?
No.
Is it school choice,
No,
we don't have the same
It's
amount of
predicted-
students?
It's predicted that student population
Is
is
declining.
down, so.
Okay.
It's because people aren't leaving their houses in Lakeville. Like the 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses in Lakeville are being populated by older people, two people, and they're leaving the rooms empty. That's it.
It's me, I don't have kids in school anymore. Yeah. Rich, anything on the FY21 budget you'd like to offer?
Not right now, no. I mean, it's just,
Okay.
Maureen and I are working on it.
Okay. Any other business that may come before the Board of Selectmen? Okay, well, if that is it, then are we... The possible executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 3821-3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically firefighters union, police union, laborers union. And the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the board. I make that motion to go into that executive session and not to come out.
So
again.
moved.
Second that.
All those in favor? Fabian, aye.
LaCAM, aye.
Hardly aye.
All right. Okay.